What is up, fam? It is Tuesday night, live from the Real Talk Studios on A2DRadio.com. We are Birds of a Feather with Chrome and Chucks and Mr. Brodo over on the ones and twos. We're brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC. Our certified public accountants, make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. And also by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Cherry Hill, Princeton, and Burlington, New Jersey. I forgot my locations for a minute there. And also on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Scanzano Sports conversation piece of the night, folks. Put together by our man here, Chucks. Howie Roseman still needs to draft a running back. Agree or disagree? Who didn't know that there was going to be a running back question here after a week of acquiring Jordan Howard? But Eeyore's got one for us over here.
Eeyore?
Eeyore
now?
Why even bother? We're going to be talking the Jordan Howard acquisition. I can't talk. The Jordan Howard acquisition this week, guys. We're also going to talk about who's out at the cornerback position. And do not adjust your programming. This is not an April Fool's joke, guys. It's April 2nd. There is actually, for the first time, a Phillies topic.
And who decided that?
And
who decided there would be a Phillies topic on our show?
Listen, I don't come up with the criteria.
Yes, I did.
Chucks does. We almost fell off our chairs when we saw there was going to be an Eagles or a Phillies topic. But there is a Phillies topic. And you know what? It's the hottest thing going right now in the city.
Yeah.
It's tough not to have to spend a little time talking about it. So we're going to talk about that. And, of course, no huddle at the end of the show. But getting to our question, the Eagles need to draft a running back in the draft. I'm going to learn how to talk, guys, at some point, I swear. Eagles need to draft a running back at some point in the draft. Agree, disagree? I'm going to give it to the floor to Eeyore over here.
The Eeyore. I think I understand why I have that nickname for now.
I know.
And
I know. I can tell you exactly why. Because on our Birds of a Feather chat, when we said, hey, we got Jordan Howard, Chucks went unenthusiastic. Yay. That was exactly what he typed out.
Yes. I was, and let me preface this by saying there is a reason why I was unenthusiastic, but doesn't have to do with the trade itself. All right. First, to answer the poll question, I agree. I still think that Howie needs to draft a running back this year. Still, it's not as urgent to get one early anymore, because we don't need an early down kind of guy anymore, because we have that in Howard.
Right.
But we need a complement to him still. Where you
don't need like a Jacobs or
you
anything
don't need
that.
you don't need like now.
There's no urgency for anything like that.
Whereas like Jacobs was like such the hot name for the end of the first round. I mean I still wouldn't hate it if we got Jacobs, but like it's not as urgent, or like it's more of like, okay, like we don't get Jacobs, that's fine because we have Howard. You still need to though get someone who's in the. So I'll put it this way: someone who can be the quote unquote Tariq Cohen for Jordan Howard over in here in Philly. Mm-hmm. Whereas, and for this week I will be putting out my full scouting report for Jordan Howard, and also have a video coming up where I break down his film. So that's new and coming up this week. But Howard isn't a good receiver, and he's not like a dynamic, explosive type of runner. He is an early down bruising type of back. So you need someone who can contribute as a weapon out of the backfield as a receiver on third downs. Someone who can break off big plays consistently and take one to the house. And you don't have that in Howard. You don't know what the situation with Sproles will be. He said he's waiting out until May to see what you're assuming that it's because he wants to see what the Eagles do in the draft. If they do get another running back, so that's you don't know. So there's no one on the roster that can fill that role, except for one guy, and you don't even know who's going to make the team, and that's Boston Scott. Mm-hmm. Like he's the only one that fills a type of mold of running back, but he's still like the last guy on the depth chart right now. So that's not even a certainty that he'll be on there. So. You still do need to draft a running back, because with Howard, he's a good running back, but the reason why I was never that enthusiastic about him is because while everyone was so high on him 2 years ago after his rookie year and everything, I never thought that Howard was that good of a guy. Like I ranked him around I'd say he's like a top 15 to 20 back. He's a bruiser. He's an early down guy, but he's limited in what he can do. So, I think he's a good back. I'm glad he was here, and the trade that we got, that's a great trade. I love the trade because we barely gave up anything, a conditional 6th-round pick for a good running back and a guy who's definitely already the best running back on the team. So that's a great trade. Love the trade. It's just that, I was never a huge fan of Howard, so that's not going to change. I'm not going to change my stance on Howard just because he's an Eagle. If I wasn't that big of a fan of him before, I'm not going to be that big of a fan of him as an Eagle. But it was still a great trade, and we needed to. It definitely fills part of a need that the Eagles had at running back. But it's just that it's not complete yet. You still need to get one more guy to be his complement.
Okay. That's understandable. I got you. Before I get mine in, I don't want to be a crumb. I know. I hear Mr. Softy, and it's making me hungry.
Wait, there's ice cream?
I know.
All right, hold on.
This is the first time of the year that I've actually it's the first time of the year I've heard it. So that's a sign for good things to come, guys. Weather's getting nice. We got baseball.
I have my allergies, but ice cream would help a lot.
Allergies is a sign of nice weather to come, though. And before I get into it, because I'm a crumb,
how mad would Tom
shout
be
out
if
to
I
the
really
YouTube,
or something?
Facebook, Twitter fam, Instagram, Periscope. My bad, guys. Hope you guys are going to join us in the conversation. I'm a crumb tonight. I'm a mess. I'm all over the place.
That's all right.
Anyway, I agree. I agree that they do need to draft a running back. I don't think they need to. They can do the day 3 thing now, and they can draft a guy that they're gonna be able to, groom a bit. I think Sproles is going to come back. I agree with you that probably because of he'll wait to see what they do in the draft, and I think that could be primarily maybe to see if they take somebody day 1 or day 2.
Okay.
That could affect, but if they take somebody in day 3, I don't see that being something that'll really affect his decision making to come back at that point, because it's already going to be known that's going to be a project that likely probably won't factor much into this season. And for him, I think this is it. We say it every year, but I actually think this might be it if he comes back. But when you look at this team, and I hear what you're saying, he's not a great catching back and all that. This team likes to find guys who have different strengths, different attributes that make them who they are. He doesn't need to be that guy, and I know that you understand he doesn't need to be that guy on an everyday or an every down term. But, I'm looking at this is our downhill runner that we really, really needed, a guy that we can rely on who can, run through the holes on the offensive line and just run north to south. We haven't had that in a while. I mean, Jay could kind of be that guy, but I think he's a little more explosive than Jay is, so there's a little bit more speed. Little bit.
No. Not
Jay
at all.
had it.
Jay Ajayi had a lot more burst and a lot more agility than Howard.
Know. I've seen Howard in the open field, and I think that he can.
Oh no.
He can get a little
Howard does not have good burst, acceleration.
Well, maybe he's a smarter runner when it comes to that. I don't know, but I've seen him be able to run and break him off in the open field once he gets through the offensive line. But that being said, you have your guy who's going to be your kind of gadget back in a Corey Clement if Darren Sproles doesn't come back. But I'm looking at, and I'm not convinced yet that they're still done. Duke Johnson wants out. It wouldn't shock me to see them pull a trade for Duke Johnson.
Get Duke.
I'm not taking
I
that.
want Duke.
I'm not taking that off the table, and I would love that. I mean, if you go into the season with a Jordan Howard, Duke Johnson, and Corey Clement,
yes,
that's a great
all day.
That's a great 1, 2, 3
I will
punch.
take that. Oh, I would. Yes.
I'm not taking that off the table yet. But regardless, Josh Adams to me is just a guy. I think he's just a guy. I mean, he could be a 4th back on another team elsewhere or here. But people fall in love with these guys when they break a few runs off their first few runs. Yeah. I think we started to see who he really is towards the end of the season, and his playing time got reduced. There's definitely a role to be filled. Wendell Smallwood is still on the table as a potential spot in there.
He'll be on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a bubble guy, but I think that he has a shot. I mean I saw progress from him last year. And if he can come into training
stay
camp,
healthy.
yeah, it was shocking. But if he can manage to stay healthy, come into training camp, and make those steps forward, there's no reason that he can't be one of those guys as well. So yeah, no, I definitely think that they take a back, but I don't think they take it back early by any means. I mean, unless we have the big fish sitting there at 25, then you have to. I mean, at that point, you absolutely have to. Even if you draft him to trade him later, you have to take him. I'm just saying. Ryan's giving me a look like, what? You don't think that could happen?
Wait. What was the last thing you said? I was reading comments.
We're not going to do another Michael Bridges, are we?
What is that? Wait, what happened?
You know
what
how
just
the
happened?
Sixers took somebody
and
they traded him away.
What was it you said?
I said I'm not even going to rule out the fact that if he's there, they could draft him and then trade him.
Jacobs.
Oh, Jacobs? No, I don't see that happening. If they just draft someone, no, I don't.
Don't tease me like that, Crum. Don't you tease me like that.
If they select the guy, they're gonna keep the guy. They're not, and if there's a trade on the table, they're going to make the trade before they select the guy. That makes sense. Like the trade will happen before they even announce the name. But if there's no
that's
trade
like
on the
we
table,
talked about that in weeks before. But I'm just saying, I'm not ruling anything out with Howie. I mean, I've seen Howie pull all kinds of shit. So would it shock me to see something like that? Absolutely not. I think they go offensive line in the first round, but we'll see, or maybe interior defensive line. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that they do.
On Facebook, I just want to address because I'm gonna have conniptions here. Chris Coleman says Jay Ajayi has bad knees. Jordan Howard is a 1,000-yard running back. Jordan Howard is night and day better than Jay Ajayi. And then Hunter Shannon says Ajayi is between the tackles guy. Howard is the guy. This is the type of shit that I'm talking about, where people just they look at numbers, but they don't actually watch the guy's skill set. Ajayi is not just a between the tackles guy. If you guys remember, when Ajayi was with us after we traded for him, he was the guy that was running our outside zone run plays, and he was doing them well. When he went down last year, those outside zone runs went out of the playbook. He is not just a between the tackles guy. And go look it up. Look at the percentages. Look at the run calls. Jay Ajayi is an outside guy. Just because he's not a burner doesn't mean he doesn't have good burst. He has Ajayi. Something that you guys people don't realize sometimes is Ajayi had, because of his soccer background, for a big running back, he had excellent feet. They were so quick, and he was so agile that when he had the ability to make a cut on a dime, and I've seen it. If you guys have watched, have you guys not watched him? He makes cuts so well for a big back. Howard does not do that. He doesn't I've gone through all of his reps, guys, through all of 2018. Watched a lot of his 2017 tape. He does not do anything like what Ajayi does behind the line of scrimmage. He's not agile. He's not. Is that out of the park? Woo! Frankie! Let's go.
Frankie! For all you fans out there, for all you viewers out there, that is a solo shot from Michael Franco. Okay. Phillies are up 1-0.
1-0. There you go. But
he's
even
learning.
Though,
I'm proud of him.
Even though Ajayi is mostly probably gone. I don't like it when people misinterpret Ajayi.
Ajayi is gone.
Ajayi is his issues were injuries, but to act like Howard is night and day better than Ajayi I don't believe that at all. You guys you can't don't forget the one season Ajayi had, his Pro Bowl year. He went off. He absolutely went off. So it's not like he hasn't had a 1,000-yard rushing season either. He did. So I don't if you prefer a bruiser or just an early a powerful guy, sure, you'll like Howard more, but I want someone who can create yards for himself, who can make cuts on a dime, but who's also physical too. And Ajayi is a lot more athletic, has better vision, better feet, and to me it's no question Ajayi is better. The only downside to Ajayi was he was constantly hurt, and then obviously his knees.
Chuck, so let me ask you this while you guys are talking Ajayi. Now that Ajayi is clearly not going to be back here, which team or teams do you think would be a perfect fit for Ajayi and then vice versa?
To me, it only seemed he'd have to go to a team that has a lot of running back depth where he can, for this next upcoming season, he wouldn't be relied on so much. And to me, the only team that really does make sense is the Colts. I think after the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if they sign him. Okay. I think it's one of those where he's waiting to get a full bill of health, and then he's going to end up signing somewhere. Okay. With his him being familiar with Frank Reich and that offense, it's perfect for him. And then that offensive line is crazy. And then they still already have Mack and Hines. So Mack and Hines can offers the Colts a position where they're not risking everything by signing Ajayi. They're not relying on him to be the only guy. He's just part of that committee. But this way, Ajayi can get eased back into the swing of things, get his feet under him as the season goes on, and then be part of a really, really good trio of backs there in Indy.
I mean, Indy makes the most sense because I agree with Chuck's. I mean, he's going to have to go somewhere where there's not going to be any pressure on him at all, and he can kind of go at his pace. That's the most logical spot, but yes.
I'll throw you guys a name. Just out of left field. What about a team like Pittsburgh?
Potentially.
Because I know they have Connor.
Again, he's not the guy relied on. But
yeah, and I know they have Connor, and I know they're putting a lot of stock into him, but I could see, now officially, now they don't have Le'Veon Bell.
No, it's a team that has a good offensive line. Yeah. It kind of fits the mold for sure.
And I can see that too. And they're in cap hell.
I can see that too.
I
can see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you're right. He's a cost efficient type of guy for them. I'm gonna read a couple comments here on Facebook because they were flying here. I'm just gonna go right to the top. Tom says, "What's up? What's up, Tom?" So does Pove. What's up, Pove? And Ralphie. What's up, Ralphie?
Hello, Ralphie.
Hunter wants to know where Ryan's at, but he just heard your voice. So
I'm here, brother.
John Malmus says, day 2, Miles Sanders.
Woo, would love that still.
I would
absolutely
as well.
Love that.
Chris Coleman says Jordan Howard's an excellent move. This upgrades our running back group tremendously. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the trade.
Chris also says Jay Ajayi has bad knee. Oh, you read that.
I read Chris's.
John asks, any chance of trading back later in the round in round 1, pick up a third pick, Duke Johnson money. The next 2 years is kind of up there.
Wait, which comment was that?
He says, any chance of trading back later in round 1?
Oh,
pick up a third round pick. He says, Duke Johnson money the next 2 years is kind of up there.
No, it's not. I just looked up his contract.
Yeah, Duke's got an
awesome contract.
Yeah, he's got a very cost
it's like $3 or $4 million or something like that. Yeah,
contract.
It's like $3 or $4 million, something like that.
Yeah,
I just looked it up.
Even if we were to extend Carson Pryor, I mean, there's going to be plenty of money to bring in a guy like a Duke Johnson. But I could see them if they trade back, they trade out of the first round though. I don't think they're going to trade till later in the first round. I think they drop out of the first round then and maybe snag a 2 or.
Well, I mean, the Patriots were there. I can see them swapping maybe. But I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at the Patriots' needs. Hunter says, "Dude, I watched Ajayi. You're crazy. Let me read everything because he has a couple comments.
Go ahead.
He says, "Dude, I watched Ajayi. You're crazy. Do you remember when he was running our outside zones runs that broke from Jason, our center blocking? Then Ajayi can't finish." He runs out of breath at the 50-yard line. And do you remember that or not now? Howard, on the other hand, shake my head. He watched him get to the 50 and run out of energy.
Yeah, Ajayi, I said, Ajayi isn't a burner.
Yeah.
That's why he runs out of gas. He doesn't have top end speed. But that's not what when I'm talking about when you're talking about outside zone runs is when you're talking about outside zone runs, you have to be able to have the vision and the lateral agility it's what you called are you going to bang the play? Are you going to bend the play? Or are you going to bounce the play? There's 3 lanes in an outside zone run play. And so Ajayi had that vision and agility to be able to see the flow of the lineman and make that cut, make that decision. and he had great feet and explosion that way. But even though explosion, when you're talking about, I'm not talking about overall speed. Explosion, I mean getting from 0 to 100 as quickly as you can. Ajayi had that ability to get to that top speed, even though that top speed wasn't great. He had that ability to go from 0 to 100 very well, so that when he makes that cut on those outside zone runs, he gets upfield on a very good angle. And I wish that video that will be out later on was out already, so you have a point of reference. But in the video where I break down film of Howard, there are numerous runs where Howard is late to make a cut, and not only that, he doesn't make sharp cuts, and they're not explosive cuts. He doesn't maintain speed in and out of his cuts where he's going left to right. He just doesn't. I've seen all of his tape. Like he just doesn't. And Howard isn't the type of guy who has that good speed either, where he's going to run away from linebackers or safeties in the second and the third level. He follows blocking really well. Like he has good vision. But in terms of once he's in space, does he make people miss? No, he doesn't. He doesn't have great contact balance. Like he's physical, but he won't make people miss in space, and he won't run away from guys. That's the difference. And like I said, if you like Howard, that's fine. If you prefer a more powerful back, that's Howard. But I like my big backs to still have light feet and quick feet, like Ajayi does. And to say that Ajayi can't run outside zone is false. It's absolutely false. You can look at all like the in-depth next gen stats, PFFs. Like Ajayi is great on outside zone runs.
He says Ajayi's a good back. Don't get me wrong, Howard is better. Sorry to say, I can only remember Ajayi running out of gas. And then he says, why would we want a back that can't do it all when we get Howard, which can do it all? He says he understands what you're saying. He just doesn't agree with you.
I get it. I mean, Howard, again, he's not a guy who can do it all. Like, he doesn't even.
He also says, like, the word had.
Like
Howard, the emphasis on when you were talking about Ajayi.
Ajayi, yeah. I mean, with Howard, he even admitted himself in the press conference, which I was so glad to hear. He even admitted himself that he struggled with pass catching. That was something he tried to work on.
They'll work on that, though.
So they'll work on that, but
I think he'll be better than he was.
To say that Howard is already a proven receiver or a great receiver is false. He even acknowledged he's not a good receiver and he's not a home run guy.
I don't think that there's any reason to not believe, though, that he can't become a better pass catcher.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there was as much of an emphasis for him to do that in Chicago. So it's going to give him something to come here and something to work on, and he's in the right place with the right people around him to improve that.
Deuce is a good coach. He did it with Clement. Right. Clement improved, and so hopefully Howard can improve.
Yeah, and I'm confident that I believe that he can improve. Ralphie says, so with getting Howard, do you now wait and take a running back in the second or later rounds? We talked about that earlier. I think we agree probably later rounds, probably a mid-round, maybe a day 3 pick for a running back.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably most likely, and that would be great.
Greg Malakovic says, love the Howard move, but yes, still need to address the position somewhat early in the draft. Don't want to reach and take Jacobs in round 1 if he's not best player available, but still need to draft somebody. Tom agrees with the poll question. David Roska says, what's up, boys? Are you ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, the Flyers are out, but I always enjoy watching the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I love watching NHL playoffs.
I will say, the NHL is probably my 4th least favorite of the 4 major U.S. or sports played in the U.S. But their playoffs are insane.
Their playoffs are so
even for the casual fan, it's hard not to get into the NHL
especially
playoffs.
NHL overtime in NHL playoffs where it's next goal wins.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I always feel like of all the major sports, a 1 seed could lose to an 8 seed, the easiest
in hockey.
Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things. Sheldon Brown says, knowing our organization, it's always been our MO to draft tackle for the future, which lends to the longevity of the quarterback and the offense. You can trade back to acquire a 3rd-round pick to draft a complement pass catching back in later rounds. Mm-hmm. I think we agree with that.
Yep.
Build from the inside out. That's the Philly way, and that's what brings championships, not flashy picks. This will make the scheme prominent.
Agree.
100% agree with that. We talk about it. Tom always talks about it on all the shows. You win this game at the lines. And for your running backs to be effective, you have to have a strong offensive line, particularly an interior offensive line. I think that's going to be something they're going to strengthen and provide depth for in the draft. And even on the defensive side, you need to have depth there. And with this team, we run a rotation to keep guys fresh, which is why bringing back a guy like a Vinny Curry made so much sense. He was totally exposed in Tampa Bay as an every down guy.
Exactly.
He's not an every down guy. I think Vinny's going to get back to close to what his form was previously, being here as a depth guy. John Malmus says some players I really like in the draft: Jeffrey Simmons, Juan Thornhill, Austin Bryant, Jalen Ferguson, Vishon Joseph.
Jalen Ferguson's pro day was so bad.
He says, "Let's watch." Hunter says, "Let's watch and see this year." Man, I hope you're right, but you think Ajayi can catch out of the backfield? Are you serious?
No, I mean Ajayi is not a great receiver either. So neither of them are great receivers. And that's I don't think I ever said that Ajayi was a good receiver either. So neither are. But in terms of running the ball, it's pretty clear. Now I will say that that Jordan Howard, he is absolutely a better pass blocker. He is actually one of the better pass blockers. He is one of the better pass blocking running backs in the league.
Jordan Howard's probably a top 3 or 4, at least. Pass blocking
he is
running
great
back.
in that aspect. So I will give that up to
Which is
I love that. I love that about him.
Which is so important this year, particularly with Carson coming back now off of the injury, hopefully 100%. Having that protection back in the backfield with Carson is going to be really pivotal moving forward. Hunter says, you guys might not like this, but this kid, Damian Harris, if he's available, I'd pick him up second round. Not sure if you guys heard of him. But if you haven't, watch his highlights.
Damian Harris, Alabama, the running mate for Josh Jacobs. So he was the starter over Josh Jacobs for in Alabama. Damian Harris is one of those. His ceiling isn't that high. I think he has a limit to how good he is. I don't think he'll ever be elite, but his floor is probably the highest floor out of any running back in this class. And Hunter, you mentioning him, he is to me. I have him at a third round grade. Harris is he's a very good back. But like I said, his ceiling's not that high. If you pick him, you know what you're getting. He reminds me a lot of former Alabama running back Mark Ingram. He's not a big play guy either or anything, but he does a lot of the little things really well. Great vision. A very reliable receiver out of the backfield. Great in pass blocking. So all around, he's a good back. So I do like Damian Harris too.
Over on the YouTube's flying as usual.
Love
the YouTube fan. Appreciate it, guys. We got some people here saying what's up. Cassie's Cliff, Sheldon Brown, and Jalen Williams. What's up, fellas? Cassie says still need a Henderson or Sanders. Jalen says agree, but the real question is what round. Sheldon says would love to land Jacobs, but it's great that it's not an urgent need. Compliment back would be suitable at this point. Agreed. Excuse me. Jalen says if it's in the second round, Henderson or nothing, but in the fourth, it's take your pick to me. Just whoever the best available is around
essentially.
then.
Round 2, I still would be okay with Miles Sanders in round 2. Some wouldn't. But Henderson and Sanders are my round 2 guys. I agree. And then round 4, it's like there's a bunch of guys you can take.
Sheldon says, my honest opinion is to address the offensive tackles for the future. Feel like it's a bit underplayed at this point. Tackle and guard would be suitable, believe it or not. Marcos Levi kind of agrees with Chuck here. He says, I like Howard, but I feel people are overrating him. He needs blocks to get yards, can't create yards for himself, and usually gets tackled by safeties, but his vision in zone running schemes is good.
Yep. Inside zone.
Yeah.
Outside zone you can, but inside zone he's very good.
Sheldon says, at the end of the day, competent blocking up front is what wins a ton, makes the offense flow. We win from the trenches, build it inside out, and you can get your running back that makes your run scheme flow. Jalen says, Clement isn't a gadget player. He's just a young, well-rounded back. that can do a little bit of everything. Don't forget he was hurt for most of the season. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be.
I do think I agree with that assessment. I still don't think I wouldn't put Clement as a number 2 guy. I like him in number 3.
Oh yeah. And maybe I misspoke by calling him a gadget guy because I know Sproles is more that guy. But he's a more that was well put. He's more of a well-rounded back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run. He's an impatient runner, but he can run the football a little bit. And that's kind of more where I was going with it. Todd Womack says Philly Dilly guys. What's up, Todd? He says Howard's a north-south runner. Well, I still go back and forth on Sanders and Henderson. They were chatting up about that.
Okay.
Sheldon says trading back to acquire a third is not out of the realm of possibilities, but would be suitable in my opinion. Can pick up, I say Sanders and Henderson in the late second and on. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely options. I really don't think that, to be honest, gun to my head, I don't think they're going to stay in the first round. I think they're going to trade out of the first round.
And I wouldn't mind that at all. Well, it also depends on who's there.
It also
depends.
Right.
Well, I feel like all
week
draft talk should be prefaced by saying it all depends who's
right.
there.
And I did say I did say last week, and I still stick more to that, to where I think they'll wait until the absolute last possible moment to make that decision, unless somebody blows them away with the deal early on.
I agree with that.
I think they'll wait until, the 23rd or 24th pick is up to make a move, like you said, just to kind of see if anybody falls, because every year people fall. And if it's something that makes sense for them, whether it's a Jacobs or it's somebody else, one of those interior defensive or offensive linemen that they might need, or a tackle that you can't pass up on, they could stay in. But if I'm going with my gut, they're going to end up probably trading out of the first round.
And cool. I definitely could see that. They did it last year. Patriots seem to do it every year almost. So,
Jalen says he thinks linebacker and offensive tackle is more of a need than running back. I think running back now is a need similar to safety. I think we're too focused on offensive skill players. Yeah, I mean, I think we've addressed all the offensive skill players.
It's a little arguable. I think safety is still an underrated need that people are kind of forgetting about just because of the drafting of Sendejo. I still think you can expect a safety to be drafted at some point. I think there's a good chance of that happening.
Marco says safety and defensive tackle are needs, and there are depth classes. I expect them to take one of them in the first 3 rounds. I agree with that.
Marcos was on fire today.
Well, yeah, I'm with him. I mean, we talked about that. I think this is the year when you're looking for that kind of line depth. It's bountiful at the top. The first couple rounds of the draft. Nitro Freak, what's up? Kyle, he says, yeah, but that's the same thing with Jordan Howard that I don't necessarily like. He's a ground and pound running back, but his ability to run from end zone to end zone is very rare. So I think he agrees with you. Ajayi's legs are shot. They agree on Howard. He says he thinks Ajayi is better than Howard, but the legs are concerning.
Yeah,
so he agrees with you 100%.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Wow, me and
Everything
Kyle actually agree on something.
You sure do.
No, yeah, Kyle, I absolutely
almost fell
agree.
off the fucking chair
That's
for a minute
crazy.
there.
No, I agree, Kyle. Like that. If you're going to talk about health, that's 100% legitimate, and I've been talking about it all summer. Like, you got to see where Ajayi's legs are, because again, that's a big part. Like, him being a bigger back, but with lightning quick feet. That's, if he doesn't have that explosion out of his knee anymore, he doesn't have anything. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, I agree.
So, in here, somebody put, I lost it because I started scrolling down. Foolish Demon says we need a Swiss Army knife back now. So, is there anybody in the draft that you think they could draft mid to late rounds that could fit that mold particularly?
Yes.
Give me one or two names.
All right, so I'll go down the list. I actually, it's funny because last week I made a post about all the
Chucks, what's your longer list this week? The no huddle list or your running backs?
Running backs. When no huddle is only like one thing. But okay, like third or fourth round, we'll go like guys that have like third and beyond. So Swiss Army knife type running backs that I could see them drafting. I'm gonna start with Devin Singletary. I'm pretty sure everyone knows out of FAU. He is the guy that keeps getting comparisons to LaShawn McCoy. And I was very high on him pre-combine, but my question marks were about his overall athleticism. Because when you watch him, he has the ability to cut, but his overall explosion and burst out of those cuts and his long speed were questionable, and his combine kind of confirmed those concerns. So he dropped from like a second or third round grade to like a third, fourth round grade for me. So athleticism is an issue, but he's got that widescreen vision, guys. Like, not a lot of guys you talk about in drafts have that widescreen vision where they can see the whole field almost. You feel like they see a cutback lane, and it's almost like they have eyes in the back of their head. So Singletary has that, and I love that about him. Now, in terms of being able to catch the ball, when you watch tape of him, he shows that ability, but for some reason, each of his seasons at FAU, his production in the receiving game declined each year. So you have to ask the question of, is that more of a scheme design where the coaches phased him out of the passing game, or is it more of a developmental thing where they felt like he wasn't developing enough for them to trust him in the passing game? No one really knows. It's more of a projection. I'm projecting he'll be fine as a receiver. So he's one. Bruce Anderson, I talked about him a few times already on the show, but North Dakota State, same college as Carson Wentz. He's someone who is good all around as a runner, but he is, man, like, you can see this guy running wide receiver routes. He goes deep. He catches with natural hands. He is good, and no one's talking about him because he's from a small school and he didn't get an invite to the combine. But he's a guy that can do it all. Next guy I'm going to talk about is Justice Hill.
Justice Hill was a name that also came up in the YouTube chat.
Explosive. Now, here's a guy that doesn't have any athletic concerns. He is electric in space. Like, he will make you miss, and he will take it the distance. He's got great burst, great speed, elusiveness, everything. So he's really good. The only knock on Justice Hill why I don't have him higher is, as a runner, his vision is shoddy. Like, he more so he doesn't really rely on vision as much as he relies on reacting to open space. If he sees open space, that's where he's going, but that's not always a good thing as a running back because you're not using anticipation and knowledge of blocking schemes to find a lane. So that's where Justice Hill kind of lacks. But in terms of in space, he's great. If you can get him the ball in space, he'll make plays happen. I like also, obviously, the guy that a lot of people talk about, but he's got a torn ACL, is Bryce Love. If you draft him, and that's a scenario where I can see you bring back Sproles for one more year with Bryce Love being on injured reserve. Because Bryce Love, if you're talking about anyone out of day 3 running backs that has Pro Bowl potential, it's Bryce Love. The question is he worth the risk because his health is a concern? He tore his ACL. He's had injury history all throughout his college career. So are you willing to take that risk and say, okay, his legs are going to be fine? Or is it too much of he's not the same running back anymore because of those injuries? But if he can be what he was when he's healthy, there's no one with more upside on day 3 than Bryce Love. He's electric. He is like Christian McCaffrey-esque in terms of being a runner. Not as polished as a receiver, but he definitely has good receiving ability. Mm-hmm. So he's like a high risk, high reward. But when you're talking about like day 3 picks, round 4, round 5, the risk kind of goes out the window. You're talking about later in the draft, you're not really risking much anymore. Mm-hmm. So to me, he's worth it in round 4, round 5. But again, it's about the health. After him, there's multiple guys like. I
mean, honestly, this is a year too. If you're going to take a guy like that with our situation, can stopgap for a year or two.
Other guys that I'll throw out there: Trevion Williams, James Williams is a guy from Washington State that he really does remind me of James White from the Patriots, where like he's not going to blow you out of the water athletically, but as a receiver. He's so good as a receiver. And then there's Myles Gaskin, who's pretty good too. So those are like the Swiss Army knife type guys, who could fill the role of a Darren Sproles or like a Tariq Cohen, that type of guy that you would look on like day 3
gotcha.
That the Eagles could target.
Hopefully that list worked for you guys because he came prepared. He had his homework done. Sheldon says Sanders or Henderson are the picks in second or third round. First two picks should be offensive line or offensive line and defensive line, then a running back. How do we win the Super Bowl? We had excellent offensive line play with great scheme block on the edges, and the ball got spread around, especially with Clement running wheel routes and option routes. It truly wasn't a lead back in the game. Everyone played their role and produced, but it all stemmed from the trenches. Proof's in the pudding.
Trenches.
You will find nobody.
disagree.
You won't find a station that could agree with you more on that, buddy.
Yep,
Because
trenches, man.
across the board, any of the shows on A2D, we always talk about this team. And really, how do you win in this league? It's in the trenches, up at the front line, on both sides of the football. So we could not agree with you more, brother. And he's right. That's what got us there. It was the rotations, keeping guys fresh, and that went from the lines to the running backs. So
it's a big reason why. I mean, I would argue, and we talk about this a lot, but I think it was one of the biggest differences between the 2017 season and last season. You know, a big reason why we didn't have the success that we had the previous year, it's because we weren't protecting our quarterback, at least early in the season, and we weren't getting to the opposing quarterback.
Yeah, I thought the offensive line was disappointing the first, give or take, 5 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lane had a Pro Bowl year, but it didn't start that way.
No, he just had a phenomenal second half.
His second half was insane.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Lane started slow. Kelsey had a lot of really bad penalties early in the season as well.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
right.
did.
Yeah.
Everybody.
You're right.
I mean,
Lane.
they
Lane
did, but
too,
I
yeah.
felt like every time you turned around, Jason Kelsey was making a stupid penalty at the offensive line.
Illegal man downfield
Oh.
every single freaking
like,
game.
Come on, Jason. You know better than
Just
that.
stay still, Jason. Stay still.
Stand there and block, damn it. But no, and listen, dude, it affected it created a kind of a trend or a momentum for that. It took them a while to kind of shake a lot of that. And it kind of set us behind the 8 ball to play catch up the rest of the season. I think that a lot of that's going to be fixed, and I agree. We talked about it. I think the draft, first 2 rounds, 3 rounds, wherever their picks fall, offensive line, defensive line are going to be
offensive tackle. I said it last week.
I could see
There
them
are
taking
guys-
a linebacker before they take a running back at this point too.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So
Depends. Again, depends who's there. The linebacker class is not good at all, so that could put a hamper on that. But
now
We'll see.
one position we don't foresee them having to dip into is the cornerback position. So we will transition into that part of the conversation.
Good transition.
So
there you go.
we're not going to talk about who's going to be in at cornerback. We're going to talk about who's going to be out at cornerback. Clearly, we've seen LeBlanc's going to be part of the mix this year. Avonte Maddox in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in the safety rotation or in the, on the outside, he's going to be a big factor or a big key to their plans this year. So let's take a look. And Ronald Darby's back again.
Darby.
Who is going to be the odd man out this year?
This is such a loaded question because there's so many guys.
I'm worried about Sydney.
There's so many guys.
Worried about
Now-
Sydney.
That's my
This is for 2018.
gonna
Okay,
be-
we're talking about 2018.
It's going to be a short. I think Sydney's going to have a short leash this year.
Second he gets hurt.
Here's what I will say. If it were up to me, and Tom's gonna love this. If it were up to me, Jalen Mills would get traded out of the group. All right, that's me. But it's not up to me.
Right.
It's up to the coaches. And for some
We
guys,
know, because if it was up to you,
yeah.
we never got Jordan Howard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is truth. That is truth. That is truth. I would have traded for
You would have
freaking
signed Tevin
Duke
Coleman.
Johnson.
I got his
And
name
signed
right
Tevin
this
Coleman.
time, by the way, guys.
This is true. This is true. And then if we had Tevin Coleman, I would have drafted Benny Snell, though.
True.
See how that works?
That's true.
So
Ralph would have loved you.
now let me preface this by saying too that the
Remember
only
that kiss
reason
talk? Ralph might have gave you that big kiss we were talking about.
I'll take it. I love Ralphie. Hate him, but I love him.
Laker crumb.
When we talk about who's out, the only reason why I feel like it's interesting to discuss this is because there's 6 guys, and all of them have had starting playing time. So 3 guys are going to play this season as starters. 3 guys are going to sit the bench. And it's going to be so tough to decide who. I mean, competition's going to bring out the best and it's going to decide it, but, someone's not going to be happy. And what got me thinking about this question is on Twitter I was reading something and they brought up a good point that for some reason Rasul Douglas just isn't in favor with the coaches. If you remember early last season when Rodney McLeod sat out, or didn't sat out, got injured, and we were looking for answers at safety and whatnot, they put Avonte Maddox in at safety, the rookie slot corner. They put him in at safety, and I was like, why? What made them want to do this where they would put a rookie slot corner in at safety behind a second year or before a second year guy who has had safety experience in Rasul Douglas? What's going on? And you would hear stuff that the coaches don't like Rasul's penchant for playing off script. And what I mean by that is we all know Rasul loves to get his takeaways. He's so good at making plays on the ball and everything.
He's a ball hawk, yeah.
He's a ball hawk. But a big part of why he's a ball hawk and he's able to make big plays is because he lures quarterbacks into throwing a ball his direction. By the way he does that oftentimes is by playing off script, not sticking to what the coverage dictates. And so that you can understand why that's frustrating on the coach's end is like they're saying, Rasul, stick to this coverage, stay in this zone, blah, blah, blah. But Rasul doesn't do that. He follows his instincts a lot. And for that reason, he's not been so much in favor with coaches. So you got to start wondering, even though I like Rasul Douglas as a playmaker, like I feel like there's some way you have to get him on the field in certain situations because he's such a ball hawk.
Mm-hmm.
You got to ask yourself, is he even going to see that much playing time because of how the coaches see him? So if I'm going to take this question from the angle of who do I anticipate the coaches, who will be out at cornerback based on who the coaches seem to favor and don't favor, I think it's Rasul Douglas because of his penchant for being off script and playing that way. I think that frustrates Schwartz and everyone, and so he would be my guy. Personally, again, I think it's Mills. I think Mills has shown, him and LeBlanc, I think, have shown to be like the weaker guys. Even though LeBlanc had a great finish to the season, like I still need to see more of LeBlanc. It was only like a short stint. I need to see more of LeBlanc to show that's a real thing. With Mills, it's like he struggles and he struggles and he struggles and he struggles. So, personally, it would be one of those two. But from the coach's end, from a realistic standpoint, I think it's Rasul Douglas is the guy. And you start to wonder, some guys were bringing it up, would you trade Rasul Douglas to a team where he can get some starting playing time, to a team that sees those skills and say, hey, we'll give you a 4th-round pick. We'll give you like a 4th-rounder for him. So, I mean, I don't know. But if I were to guess, I think it would be Rasul.
Hold on a second. Am I missing something?
No, I was pointing at YouTube.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll get over to YouTube in a second. So I hear what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense.
This is Sean.
It makes a lot of sense. For me, it's I'm looking at the situation. It's not going to be Darby. A healthy Darby is your best cornerback. It's just the way it is.
I think Maddox is better, but it's arguable.
Maybe. He still has a lot to prove, though. Still, he's a younger guy as opposed to a Ronald Darby who's a
veteran
guy.
Yeah. You're right.
But I agree. Maddox is probably your number 2 guy. I think that there still needs to be a spot for that guy who's going to be the playmaker, which is why I think in the end Rasul will have he'll get his reps and he's going to be a part of the equation. He may not be, the 3rd guy on the depth chart. He might be the 4th or 5th guy, but I think he'll be there. LeBlanc, I think, is just he's got a lot to play for. I think he's going to be happy to be there and have the opportunity. I thought he played really well down the stretch last year. So we'll see what he has. For me, it's Sidney. It's got to be Sidney. I don't think it's Jalen. I do believe, and it shocks me that I say this because I beat up Jalen all the time. But when it comes down to red zone, Jalen is their best guy in the red zone. The reason he makes so many mistakes is because he gets beat over the top. And I think you're going to need that guy, particularly when you start getting into your own end of the field, where you have a shorter field to protect. That's where Jalen is at his strongest. You're going to need that guy who can be shut down in the end zone, and I do believe that he is your best guy out of all 6 of these players to consistently do that in that end of the field. So he may not play the early downs so much, but once the ball crosses the 50 and 45-yard line, that's where I expect to see him get more reps. Correct.
Okay.
That
might be a good way to use him. I think it would
maximize him.
I think I would like that. I mean, hopefully you would hope Schwartz and them would have that mindset, but I think that would be a great way to use him.
To me, it's the same thing as having, your goal line back type of a guy. It's your goal line defensive back, though. But he constantly never makes a play on the ball, and he gets beat over the top, and it drives me crazy. So just eliminate that. You have so much depth at this point that you can utilize a guy like that and maximize where his best part of the field is to succeed. To me, it's Sidney. He's got a lot of injury issues at this point, a lot of unfortunate wear and tear on the tires, and really not that much wear and tear on the tires in hindsight. But I think Sidney has a lot to prove. We're in year 3 of the Sidney Jones experiment now.
Yep. He has everything to prove.
If it fails, I'm going to pull the Greg Milakovic when he talks about Jalil Okafor, and he says, I still take Jalil at 3 at that point. I agree with him on that, by the way. But I think the Eagles, when they took Sidney Jones, made the pick that they had to make. But it's now on the player, and he has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
short leash, and I think Ryan agrees because he made the hand gesture to me earlier. One injury, and he falls.
Gone.
He's out of grace in my opinion.
Yep.
And
so for me, he's the guy who's the odd man.
I agree with that.
More likely to be the odd man out of the 6.
And we've talked about this numerous times that, at least the hopeful side of us would imagine, and this is not, none of us are reaching by saying this, but we know the first offseason since he was drafted. Did he catch that? Or he missed it?
No, he missed it.
Oh, thank you.
Is that a double?
Chuck's is excited. No.
Yeah.
I love it.
He was still recovering.
And he knows it's called a double, too.
Very good, Chuck. Very
baby.
good.
Growth before your own eyes, guys. Growth before your own eyes.
He was still recovering from that injury, so he really couldn't bulk up or get into the NFL body.
Yes.
This is really his first offseason in which he can do that. So we kind of put a lot of the injuries and the reason why he was so frail, it's because he was kind of like a Josh Adams. What happened? He steal?
He got on base.
I know it's shocking that he got on base,
no,
right?
they were 1st and 3rd.
I know.
Because did the infielder misplay that?
There's a computer screen.
Oh,
blocking
I thought you
were
sorry.
No, you're good. So I think we all believe that Sidney Jones has a better shot of getting into an NFL rhythm as far as his body and fitness because he does have a full 100% or at least very close to 100% off season in which he's healthy. Yeah. Now, he's still banged up from the season. He was banged up 100 different times, but we would hope now that he has more time to really bulk up and get better fitness-wise, hopefully that would translate to on-the-field things because I don't think any of us would disagree that when he was healthy at the beginning of the year, he wasn't great. He didn't bounce off the screen, but he was good.
He showed flashes of brilliance.
It was just everything else.
And showed flashes of oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then after that, he just tried to do too much because he played hurt because, listen, if it wasn't him playing, it would be one of us 3 because they would have to call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
that Saints game is an example. Yeah. He forced it. He tried to play even though he was hurt.
But I do agree with Chrome. I believe since there are so many options in the secondary, the second if Sidney Jones does get hurt, I believe they are going to move on quickly and really are going to be cautious of putting him back on that field.
Yeah, I agree with those assessments. I think so. I think this is how I think it's going to play out. I do think that to begin the season, like in the preseason, I think it's going to be Sidney's going to be set at one outside spot, and I think that Jalen Mills is going to be set at one outside spot with Avonte Maddox in the slot. Mm-hmm. And I think Avonte Maddox are really going to make use of his versatility. They're going to line him up all over the field. I think they're going to use him in different ways. At least you would hope so too.
Mhm.
But because he has that ability, I think he's going to be that Swiss Army knife of the secondary. So I think those are going to be the 3 starters to start. Because also remember, Darby's coming off a torn ACL. You don't know if he said he'll be ready by week 1, but you don't know if he'll be ready to play in any of the preseason.
Sure.
So maybe he'll take a few weeks to get into the swing of things. So if he's out of the equation just to start the season, I think those are your 3. And then LeBlanc and Rasul, I think, are your spot guys. But I do think that with Sydney, it's like, all right, you got the outside corner job. You have to show everything to the world now. There's no more excuses. There's no more like, oh, but this. Nothing. You have to stay healthy, and you have to show that you were worth that second-round pick. Once you get hurt, like you guys said, and once like you start to falter, you're done. I do agree with that. I personally think that if he bulks up, adds some muscle, and stays healthy, he will hold on to that starting outside job for the whole season.
Yeah.
But he has to stay healthy. He has to.
Before we go to break, I just want to say welcome back. We missed him, our buddy Sean Taylor. I'm glad you're back in the chat, buddy.
Sean!
Missed your meaningless strolling. I got to say, my favorite experience as far as games this year was going to Washington and
Was that a wild pitch?
Waxing the floor with them. And listen, whether it would have happened with Alex Smith or not, I'm just going to say good luck to you because you got nothing to fucking talk about until Case Keenum shows anything.
Case Keenum,
Good
baby!
luck with Case Keenum, buddy. Until then, I don't give a shit about anything you have to say. It's completely meaningless to me at this point. Good luck with Case Keenum. Until then, guys, we're going to take our break. Brought to you again by our sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com, and Specialized Physical Therapy. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Second half of the show, we'll continue to talk Eagles talk. We'll also get into some Philadelphia Phillies talk, hottest team in baseball right now. Only undefeated team left, I believe. And we're going to do our no huddle. Until then, guys, if you're on YouTube, or stick with us on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you guys are at, head over to the YouTube, click the link, or get on YouTube, search A2D Radio. Give us a subscribe, like us, follow us. Lots of great content. We're going to take our break. We'll talk to you guys in a few. What's up, fan birds of a feather? Coming back to you live from the Real Talk Studios on A2DRadio.com and over on the YouTube. If you made the jump from Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, Twitter, we appreciate you. If you stay tuned with us, we appreciate you. We love you guys over on that tube and with the Tube fam.
The Tube.
Update: Phillies are up 2-0 going into the 5th inning.
They're up 2-0.
2-0. Chrome, Chucks, Ryan Brodo coming at you guys. Shout out to our sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, GibsonMayer.com, as well as Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, New Jersey, and find them on the web at SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Our Scanzano Sports topic of the day: the Eagles will draft a running back in the draft. Right? Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Agree, disagree, in so many words. You know,
or less.
Paraphrase in my own way, because that's what I do. I don't like to read things.
That's what I do.
We had a lot of hot topics. Sean Taylor, welcome back, buddy. We miss you. We love you.
Shawnee.
We really do. We really do love you, buddy. We appreciate you coming back in. You're one of my favorite trolls of our platform, and I mean that sincerely. I really do. But we'll continue to talk Eagles and football talk, but we got a Phillies game going on, boys, and the Phillies are the hot topic. First of all, we got to get one of those like standing applause here for Chucks.
Why?
Finally took time, his own personal time, to watch a baseball game. And I mean, damn, not only did he watch a baseball game, he decided himself to put it as a topic of our show this week.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
For a guy who loves to talk baseball, there is a God. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Now let me ask.
84 years.
It's been now let me ask though. Is it kind of a violation that I'm getting into it now just because the Phillies are good?
No, they finally have a product. It's the first time in like 9 years.
Okay.
No, and the fact that we were beating you up since last year to get into it, and we told you this is the year to start.
I mean, to be fair, I always did say like when the Phillies were in the playoffs, like before when they had like the holidays of 09, 10, like I would always watch them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, but like regular season, I just never kept up with it.
No, like if you were a fan of even like a pseudo fan of another team, that would be a different story maybe, but.
And you never, it's not like you went around here saying, oh, I refuse to watch baseball. Like you never said that. You're just like, well, I just haven't gotten into it in a long time.
Well, here's the thing too, like if you're a kid and you grow up and you like a sport, that's one thing because it's a part of you. It's what you. If it's not something that you've really taken the time to get to watch, or for whatever reason, maybe it's not your cup of tea, but you're intrigued by it, like especially as an adult now, if I'm going to watch something, I need to be interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, Game of Trash.
Don't start with me.
I can't watch Game of Trash because it's garbage. I like to kind of.
Can you mute his mic?
I kind of like to put that in and tie that in with the lousy years of the Phillies over the last few years.
Don't you dare compare.
You know,
don't you compare.
If you can't sit there and watch an awful product, it's hard to learn something and learn the sport when you're disinterested in the garbage thrown in front of you.
Bryce Harper's up a bet.
It's such a bad take by you. It's such a bad take by you. How dare you compare.
Anyone on the chat want to jump in and say how ridiculous he is?
Sort of like how wonderful the world's becoming because Game of Trash is finally going off the air.
You're not invited to the round table. You're not invited.
That's fine.
Chucks, are you coming?
I said I was down.
Good. Make sure Chrome doesn't show up.
Game of Trash is not going to be on the air anymore. It's similar to the Phillies finally turning a corner, much like entertainment and television turned the corner.
They're mini movies of fun. Leave it alone.
And now we're here. We're here. We are at the uprise for the Philadelphia Phillies. So yes, Chucks, this is actually a really good time for you to get into it. You know, even if they were moderately good compared to what they were, it would be fine. I mean, you said last year you would try to watch a couple games this year. You couldn't have foreseen at the time that it was going to be Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto and Gene Segura and Andrew McCutchen and Nolan, everybody else who, you know, is top-notch, who they've either added or is taking steps up. So
I don't know if those guys are good.
Well,
like, I really don't know if those guys, like the guys. No. But besides, like, okay, you said you guys told me that Realmuto was good.
Best player.
But after like Segura, McCutchen, I don't know. How good are they?
Trucks.
I'm asking questions.
I think Bryce is very upset with me already, or he's confused by my Game of Trash.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Bryce.
Believe me, it's very comparative. It fits.
Bryce, we do not share his sentiments. He is on an island by himself. I'm just letting you know. Don't group us with it.
Chucks, going back to your comment from a couple moments ago about the players, I'm going to quote Tyrion Lannister. Okay.
Go ahead.
It'll be great if you learn to lie every once in a while. You know it. So you don't get the reference.
Yeah, man, they're so good. You're right. Yes, they're the best.
I love those guys.
Or just say nothing at all.
Yeah, just like nod and wave.
Sometimes nod and wave. Silence is gold.
Oh, my God.
What do you do?
But anyway, so we finally got Chucks. But here's the thing. We didn't make him watch a game. No. We didn't say, Chucks, turn the game on. He randomly sent us a video. And said, he just sent the video and said, look what I have on. And it was a Phillies game. And we went, oh, my God. What? So I appreciate the effort. And no. I mean, for a guy who, you know, and everybody here knows how much.
Get down.
Base hit.
We're probably a couple seconds behind for anyone that's watching.
Yes, I know. We are definitely a bit.
Was that Bryce with a double?
Yeah, that was Bryce.
There you go.
That's called a double, Chucks.
Sweet.
That gentleman on the other base is Gene Segura.
I didn't know.
Very fast.
I didn't know I didn't know he hit a double. I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't know Bryce got to second. I didn't realize. I thought he only advanced the first.
Yeah, Bryce got the second, buddy.
A lot of adrenaline.
Welcome. You can feel the energy coming out of Chucks as we speak. Coming up. This is like me
you
watching.
You inspired him, Chucks.
This is like me watching Game of Trash right now. Oh yeah, look at that.
Now watch this. Now they have two runners in scoring position.
Oh yeah,
right?
bend the knee. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, did he just say scoring?
I'm gonna ignore that comment because that comment.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I used it right.
Yes.
That's exciting. Bend the knee. Is that a good thing?
Well, for her, yes. I would bend the knee all day for her.
She is hot. I'll give you that. But listen, Philly's hottest start right now in baseball. Only undefeated team left. I mean, the offense is plugging away. I think they were averaging, 8.5 runs or something like that?
Well, they had 18 runs in the first two games.
That's 9. But then the other night?
I think they had 6 the other night.
think that it said they were either averaging. We're semantics. It's like
Semantics.
8.5.
It's a lot.
Weren't they struggling with runs last year? A good chunk of the season.
They didn't have an offense.
They were pretty terrible.
Because the guy who was now batting in our 8 hole.
He was the only one.
He was our number 3 or 4, or sometimes 6 or 1 because Gabe Kapler.
What's great is everybody's getting a live look into us teaching Chuck baseball right now.
I bet you Tom wishes he was here.
And then Herrera, the guy who has 0 bat control. Sorry, Tom, but he's very erratic at the plate, in my opinion. He used to be our 3-hole hitter, sometimes 2 or 1. Basically, the offense had no identity last year. And then you bring in these 5 all-stars.
Oh, he just struck out.
Yeah, we'll let it slide.
That's all right. Reese has been hitting pretty well. So anyway, guys, hot start for the Phils. Offense looking fantastic. It took Bryce a game to get going, and he got booed in the first game. But
no, he didn't. That's fake news. That's fake news.
That's not fake.
There were 3 drunk idiots that were trying to get attention.
It was a small section of the stadium, wasn't it?
It was loud enough to hear it.
Don't you do that. That's fake news.
Listen, I'm not saying it wasn't idiots that did it, but it was. I went back and listened to the clip. It was audible enough to notice it.
It's fake news.
But regardless,
it's all right.
Bryce has been hitting the ball really well. Talk about a guy that got acclimated to the city real quickly, by the way.
He gets it, man. He just gets it.
And, we talked about it on the round table. And the thing with Bryce that I've been on, and I think you can attest to this, I said last year, Bryce Harper is one of those guys that you don't get the full perspective if he's on like a rival team, so to speak.
No.
You hate the guy, so you find every reason, the beautiful, lovely locks that he has, which he does have amazing locks, by the way. But, you find every reason to look at him as Hollywood, egotistical, yada, yada. But when you really kind of see the guy and you get to hear him talk, you realize, like, this dude is a guy that will run through the wall. And I've said it for years. If Harper's on your team, he's a guy that you absolutely love him. Because regardless of what Papelbon's issues were with him and before, Bryce Harper is a guy that will flat out run. He will run through a wall to make a play. And he's a baseball guy. And Bryce is showing it here, which is why, it's very easily Bryce could have came here and been a polarizing figure. How many polarizing figures have we had in this city?
A lot.
A lot. It's not something that we just openly with open arms welcome guys into this city. But he said everything the right way. He's showed it with his work ethic on the field, with his relationship with his teammates and his leadership. He's shown you. And this isn't something that's new, guys. This is who Bryce Harper's always been. But because he's been that guy on the other team, we hate him.
Well,
and I say we as a fan base. I'm a Cardinals fan. But
yeah, but I mean, right. Even as a Cardinals fan,
I never hated the guy. I never hated Bryce Harper.
Okay.
He wasn't my favorite guy. And again, now I'm kind of seeing every day with him playing in the city that I live in, the area that I live in.
Jesus.
There's things about him that you can't look at that pitch. There's things that I appreciate about him more, or things that I get even more about him that make me like the guy even more.
Well, what was it about him that turned off people?
People just thought he was Hollywood.
He's as we saw, in the 2 times he's, hit the ball out of the ballpark, he's very celebratory. Like even people on the dial in Philly, had a problem with the ovation, the way he was acting with his fellow member, the fellow members of his team with the high fives. I think it's a little over the top, okay. And I think we'll talk about that in a few, because I think that's BS. The definition of BS. But he's very rah. Okay. You know what I mean? And he wants to win. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's the first thing I realized about the guy when he came here. Before he even went onto the field, just the way he talked about, his preparation, his family, the way they look at the game. That's all he wants. He doesn't want to be a superstar. Is he highly marketable? Yeah. But that could also be an example of how a lot of these guys
I don't know if I'd say he doesn't want to be a superstar.
No, but that's not his number one goal. Like, right, a lot of people from other teams and cities think.
That I would agree with.
Go ahead.
Is it kind of like, just on a different level, but kind of like the misconception that Jimmy Butler had when he came to the Sixers, where he rubbed people the wrong way?
No, Jimmy did things that didn't help himself. Bryce, I don't really think. Again, it's it's looking from the outside. You look at certain guys and you're like, that dude's a diva.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I make the joke about his hair, which actually is very nice. But people look at the long hair and the beard, the well-groomed thing. You know, he does like that. He does like promotions for beard shit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's what that guy cares about. He cares about being a celebrity. You know, it's kind of like the Tony Romo kind of look, right? When people looked at Tony Romo and said, like, he's dating Carrie Underwood.
Yeah,
it's about being a celebrity for him and however many other stars that he dated or whatever.
I honestly think Chuck's incredible. I think he's a victim of circumstance for the most
There's
part.
people that didn't even realize the guy has been married to his high school sweetheart.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
people were blown away by that. I mean, I talked to people
That's awesome.
who were Mets fans, Phillies fans, and they said, "Oh, I thought he went on the road and railed through chicks."
Yeah.
Like, no, it's the dude's been married with his high school sweetheart.
And you guys would agree, you know, for the most part, in the MLB, one of the biggest gripes I have with it, and I would imagine you guys agree, is that, you know, unlike the NBA where it's a star-driven league, there's always storylines about the players, and then, you know, the league does a very good job of marketing that, which makes it very interesting, especially in the offseason. People can argue the offseason is more exciting than the regular season. You know, they do a good job in the NFL, and they kind of do a good job in hockey, but in MLB, there aren't really that many stars. Like, I can argue, while locally Mike Trout is a star, nationally, if he walks into a grocery store in Anaheim, I don't know if anyone's going to notice him, or if he walks down the street in New York, I don't know if anyone's going to know who he is. And that's an issue. And I think Bryce Harper is one of the few guys in the same group of, like, Aaron Judge, and I can name a couple other, that they are recognizable figures. You know, they are big enough names to where they draw headlines or attention in pop culture, for example.
Right. Well, I think it's fair to say it didn't do him any favors coming out with Mike Trout as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mike Trout is that, you know, kind of homely, beloved type of a player.
Yeah.
It's that and the fact that Bryce went to a rival. And then on top of it, like we talked about, the enthusiasm that comes out of Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff time, you see that stuff on the big scale. You haven't had a chance to see what Mike Trout's like on the big scale because they can't fucking get to the playoffs. They got one playoff game and they lost.
And they play at like 11, 12 o'clock at night on this side of the country.
So he's kind of – we know who he is because he's our home type of guy, although people want to run him out of town now too.
Stupid.
We know who he is. It is. It's idiotic. But because people look at him and they say that's like the model guy, the model citizen type of guy, immediately the guy who it's been Trout and Harper have been next to each other riding parallels pretty much since they came out of the draft.
Well, what's the biggest?
That did not do him any favors being the guy associated with Mike Trout.
Is Harper like? I know Trout's the number one guy in baseball, but is Harper like on a competitive like?
Well,
scale?
Trout,
Like, would he be like second, like one of the best behind him?
Top 10, top 15, maybe.
Okay.
I would say probably closer to top 15, to be completely honest with you.
Okay.
But he's by far the best player on our team.
He could be top 10 with this ball club, though.
In this fit, yes, I agree with you. And
I mean, I think he's going to put astronomical numbers up this season.
That's a great question, Chucks, because that question was brought up a lot, you know, in the 4+ months when we were waiting to see if he was going to sign here, and that was a really big debate because people were saying, "Oh, he's not close to Trout, he's not close to Mookie Betts, he's the closest to Trout." People can argue that, you know, some people believe Mookie Betts is a little bit better than Trout currently, but they're 1 and 2, and I think everyone else is kind of looking up. But to me, what matters is going back to this offseason, Bryce Harper, once Manny Machado was taken by the Padres, he was by far the best available. You know, Manny Machado is top 10 in my opinion. Chrome, I think you would agree with that, correct?
I might put Machado top 5.
Okay, that makes sense as well.
I mean, I look at Trout and Mookie.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, I mean, Nolan Arenado would probably be 3.
Yeah.
I'd maybe put him 4 or 5. I don't even know who I would put ahead of them.
It's interesting.
Now, general question: are you talking about these guys because they're powerhouses offensively, or defensively, or all around?
No,
all
total
around.
package.
Total
you know
package,
what I mean? Like
okay.
if you're like there's a big question mark on Harper for a lot of these people. Not necessarily me, but a lot of people view his defense as a weak spot because there's a lot of analytics that go into it, like a plus minus and everything like that. But they feel like his defense, especially last year, really took a step down. But people have a theory that he knew it was a contract year, and before he had kind of a quote unquote down year in the outfield, what was his biggest criticism? Oh, he's going a million miles an hour, he's crashing into walls, he'll never make it. So once he takes a step back a little bit, now I'm not saying his defense didn't get bad, but it's kind of basically there's a microscope on him constantly.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be poked and prodded and ripped apart. What matters is Harper was a guy that you couldn't miss because of what was headed as far as the free agency market for the next handful of years.
TTP says, Chuck's out here confused about baseball like me. I've never heard of Mookie until someone on here said he was in the league.
It's all right, TTP.
At least I'm not the only one.
That's why we're here, man.
We'll take care of you, buddy.
We're here to help out and get you guys educated and what you need to, and then for you guys to try to correct us.
The one thing, exactly. The one thing I was going to say to you guys as well.
I'm not preaching to nobody by any means. I love
No.
You guys teach me just as much as we probably teach you guys.
And I'll ask you this, Chrome. When we go back to the Mike Trout and Bryce Harper conversation, the reason why Harper is more scrutinized and maybe not as well liked, what's the biggest difference? What was Harper involved in numerous times that Trout wasn't on the field or in the dugout?
Altercations, yeah.
Fights. Harper's been on two fights on the field, and then the Jonathan Papelbon choke out that's going to get attention, even from the casual fans. If you're going on ESPN and it says, "Oh, Jonathan Papelbon chokes out,"
and listen,
I can't stand
Jonathan Papelbon, and I'm actually one of the few that actually likes Papelbon, and I like his fire. But when did we make Jonathan Papelbon the barometer that measures who is a good human being and who's not? Like
he's the mayor of the moral high
real
ground.
Talk.
Yeah.
I've heard that thrown out 50 times on this studio over the last 6 months, and I get it in a sense, but I always said I don't know that I go by that because I don't look at things with like a fogged lens because I'm not specifically a Phillies fan. I like the Phillies. I want to see them do well if it's not the Cardinals. It's my hometown team. I love when everything's good around here and everybody's happy. But I just feel like it was such a fogged view of things. And when in reality, and then we all know this, we've seen the guy. Take a step back. When is he the barometer of measuring good human beings? He's one of the furthest guys away from measuring that.
Yep.
So, and maybe Bryce did piss him off that one day, but
and as a Phillies fan in the time, I got a little
nobody's
giggle.
Perfect. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we did, and
but,
nobody's perfect.
But in that time, again, like we talked about, he was on a rival team. He was the best player, arguably, in the division. So we were like, oh, Bryce Harper got choked out.
I mean, there's a lot of things that were kind of going against Bryce when he came into the league, just kind of out of his control. He's a guy who skipped a year of high school. And what?
There's so Bleach Report came across my no, nothing breaking, but it's on the Bryce Harper thing. Apparently, they might have gotten carried away with this. They're saying that when Harper hit a double, he waved at Nationals fans.
No, he didn't.
But he does that to the dugout.
He does it all the time.
So I just called fake news.
It's a bunch
on
of
Bleacher
assholes who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
TTP says, I remember Papelbon looked at the crowd and held his nuts coming off the field. That was some bold shit. Be bold. Hashtag be bold.
That was the beginning of the – not the beginning. I think that was like 2015, so it was right in the middle of this team sucks.
It is a pretty classic.
That was the Ryan Sandberg era before he stepped down mid-season.
God, I forgot that Ryan Sandberg was the manager in Philly.
That's why, Chucks, you picked a great time to come back, buddy.
Yeah, and no, I mean, listen, it's to round it back. It is not a violation. And again, I mean, it has to be enjoyable, something exciting for you to watch. It would not have been exciting pretty much since – I would argue after 2012. I mean, they were still pretty decent in 2012. The ship started going down.
Nostalgia-wise, yes.
They were still competitive.
They were solid.
They weren't 2011 when they had over 100 wins.
2011 still pisses me off.
Doesn't piss me off.
No.
Nope.
Leave me alone.
Nope. 11-11. Hashtag 11-11.
You know the inside joke on that one, Chucks, right?
Cardinals beat the Phillies in 2011.
And that was our freaking year.
That was
you understand, but
year,
Placido Polanco, because Uncle Charlie couldn't take him out of the lineup.
That's when we had those three pitchers, right? It wasn't it or the
four
the whole
aces.
lineup, yeah, the four aces.
Halliday, Lee, Hamels, Oswalt.
God.
Yeah, Oswalt. Oof.
I don't want to talk about it.
I loved it. Rally Squirrel. That was a great year.
Freaking Placido
How did
Polanco.
we
0 for
not
15, but Charlie's going to still put him in. They're going to put him in.
No, 2011 was a great year for you guys.
Not in the playoffs.
It's when you guys got Hunter Pence and flipped him right away. That was a panic move.
First Game of Thrones.
That was the best. That was the best part too, right, Chucks? You could understand age, and listen. I mean, in hindsight, you can look at Pence's injury history now. They had one of the kind of up and coming young guys. They finally went out and made a move to get a young guy.
Okay.
With an old
calming.
fucking team.
Cornerstone.
And when the offseason came, they didn't move any of the aged veterans. They moved the young guy. And I don't even remember who took his spot.
Was he someone that Phillies had drafted or just acquired?
No, they traded for him.
They traded for him and then they trade him away?
And then they traded him again after the offseason. That was a waste of
Okay.
of time.
I mean,
But anyway,
I'm fighting for my life. The entire time.
but so let me ask Ryan.
hello.
This will help you learn a little bit. What impresses you the most about the start to the Philly season this far?
Well, aside from
And there's a lot to be excited about. So what is, if you were to pick one thing, give me one thing as a whole, and give me one player that's at this point early on is really impressing you.
the one thing is that, and it's kind of realization what a lot of us kind of assumed would happen, but now that we're seeing reality of it, and we know it's just 3 games, but the fact that they're really, for about a month now, I've been saying on Wednesdays that the beginning of this lineup from McCutchen, Segura, Harper, Hoskins, Real Muto, I nicknamed it the 5-man wave of hell for opposing pitchers. That's what I called it, because that's what it is. And the realization that that is what it is, plus the 3 other guys that are kind of like the forgotten souls, it's going to happen. It's a long season, but I can't imagine right now the period to where everyone on this offense is going to slump. It's near impossible. Now
It's not impossible.
Yeah, but it's the way this is built, it's very unlikely. And like I said, I know it's a very long season.
Sure.
Everyone goes into slumps. But there's so much freaking firepower here. And I've been very, very critical of our GM, Matt Klintak, for years.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not crowning him. It's 3 games. We need to see how this really formulates and how they adjust, how pitchers adjust, etc. But from what we've seen so far, kudos to them for bringing in the exact opposite of what we had last year, which we went from having 1 runs, 2 runs maximum. We were fighting to get a run on the board. To now, I'm shocked if we don't score 5+.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the most impressive thing, it's our offense as a whole. I know there's concerns with the bullpen. I know Robertson is kind of struggling right now. We'll figure that out. I think Dallas Keuchel could still be an option. I think Kimbrough can, and I really do believe Madison Bumgarner is going to be an option later in the season. Maybe Odubel Herrera gets traded for him in a package for him. But as far as the player, well, I got to go back to the guy who scored our first run tonight. He was the forgotten soul. He almost lost his job, or people wanted him to lose his job to Scott freaking Kingery, who I like, and that's Maikel Franco.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a man who, back in 2015, we viewed and we were forced to view as kind of the only light at the tunnel because our farm system shipped out guys like Dominic Brown who were like, oh, this guy is great, and 2 years later, like, oh, this guy really sucks. Maikel Franco was thrown right into the fire, and we asked him to be a superstar, and he showed signs of it, you know, over the last handful of years, but he didn't have the consistency. And I'm not saying now he's the best player on the team, but the way he started out, the way he's adjusted, he already looks more patient. Or maybe he's just more comfortable now that he's in the 8th spot. But this man, it's been talked about a million times, so I'm not the first one who's saying it, but he's the best 8th man in the in the lineup in baseball. It's incredible. He already has 3 home runs. So, to me, Harper's great, obviously. You know, Hoskins, I believe, is going to have close to 50 home runs, but to me, it's Maikel Franco because he could have easily checked out mentally and said, "Oh, well, I'm not expected to do anything. I'm just going to do what I'm always doing." But so far, man, I mean, it's really exciting to see him to really have an impact so far.
Franco's the guy out bad, right? No, that's Odubel Herrera. Never. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Odubel Herrera.
That's Ryan's favorite guy.
Isn't that Tom's boy?
Yes. I agree with 99, not 99, but a lot of what Tom says on a lot of things. Him and I just never have agreed with Odubel Herrera. And I'm not saying like Tom's like a lover of Odubel. I think he's more understanding. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I think he's more understanding as to what Odubel is.
Okay.
But I'll just say it plainly, he's way higher on Herrera than I am, for example.
Gotcha.
But I'm not like one of these people in the Real Talk group that wants to see Odubel Herrera fail, because there's a lot of guys in the Real Talk group that want to see that. I would love to be proven wrong, but I just don't think he's consistent enough, to be completely honest with you. You watch, I'll say that, and he'll hit a home run.
Well, he just swung on a pitch. 1 and 2.
I'll ask you the same question, Chrome. So
I wanted to check on one guy. I don't know if he's been hitting 7th or 8th, though.
Who?
There's another guy who's having quite a blistering start on another team as well, that it might be neck and neck. And you know who it is? Who is it?
Well, I was going to say Yelich.
No. I'm talking about as far as hitting down 7th or 8th.
Like a forgotten. Go ahead.
Colton Wong.
Okay. Yeah.
Colton Wong is on fire right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it because I'm a homer.
No.
I'm putting them both. First of all, I'm going to give another name just to give another name. When you talk about player, you absolutely nailed it. I am so impressed with Maikel Franco and the way he's come into this season. And you're absolutely right. For a guy that ran out of town for all intents and purposes on a number of occasions, he has handled it so well, and he looks so comfortable and relaxed at the plate. I don't think I've ever seen that kind of a confidence or relaxation that I've seen from opening day. I mean, really. And maybe it is because they took a lot of pressure off. Because I almost compare him to when Andre Iguodala was a 76er.
That's a great comparison.
In terms of the talent is there. We expected this guy to be a superstar, all-star, coming off of especially the Iverson years. Uh-huh. We expected him to be like one of those guys, maybe not quite a Hall of Famer in Iverson, but we expected him to be one of the best.
He was our star at the time.
He was your star player, and people wanted more out of him. When in reality, he's a really good above-average player, but he's not the guy. You have to have – he's an excellent – if you define his role on a team built to win, he's an excellent fill-in. And I feel like Maikel Franco is that guy now. Only Iguodala had to go elsewhere, Golden State, to realize that. Philadelphia bought that to him.
Well, I'll tell you, I honestly think that's a phenomenal comparison for two reasons. Number one, you're right because, like you said, Iguodala, while some of us – oh, yeah, he got on base? Double?
Yeah, double
nice.
By Herrera.
Good. Listen, I like eating my words with these things. Now, did I change my opinion on him? No.
No. Hey, even Corey Clement gets a 5-yard run every now and then.
You're right. You're right.
There you go, Chucks. There you go, Chucks. Iguodala was asked to do so much when he was here because, obviously after Iverson, and he's not the same player.
And the team stunk. For all intents and purposes, they didn't put
very
talent around
mediocre.
him.
But when he went to a team like the Warriors with a lot of firepower, with a lot of star power, kind of comparing.
Became a role player.
People at home, I'm not calling this Phillies team the Golden State Warriors.
No, we're not saying that by any means.
But there's a lot of firepower and a lot of star power. So, and now you look at Iguodala to where he's kind of put in the shadows, but he's still an impact player. I mean, we go back to the Western Conference Finals, going into the finals. Who was the biggest storyline? It was the health of Andre Iguodala.
Absolutely.
So, not that, in the playoffs I'm saying, Maikel Franco's status is going to be the biggest storyline. No, but it goes back to the same point of certain guys fit great in certain roles, and certain guys just aren't. They don't fit in every single situation.
Correct.
And Franco and Iguodala are two perfect examples of that.
Agreed. I totally agree with that.
And maturity is another big thing.
Agreed. I 100% agree. I'm really impressed with him, and now he's looking like a guy who, especially as this team is built as it is potentially the perfect fit for what they need. You don't need to go out and spend on a Nolan Arenado or a Manny Machado. The overall thing, and it kind of ties into my overall thing, that I'm most impressed with this team so early, is the chemistry that was instantaneously built with this team, because there's a lot of changes. Listen, we talked about the 76ers and all the changes that they made this season, right? Mm-hmm. When you look at the changes that they made, and I'm talking right up to 3 or 4 weeks before the season started, bringing in a guy the caliber of a Bryce Harper with the reputation that a Bryce Harper has. When you go out and you make all these moves, you bring in high-quality guys like an Andrew McCutchen, who people kind of shit on that a little bit, but I think people are realizing now that there's still something in the tank. McCutchen was expected to be – listen, when he finally was with Pittsburgh, they still needed him to be a superstar when he's past that point. Mm-hmm. Then he got moved to the Giants last year and, again, was kind of placed with a team where him and Evan Longoria were asked to do way more than they're capable of doing at this point.
Yep.
Went over, changed leagues, a league he's never been in, and he was okay with the Yankees. I mean, coming here, getting a fresh start again, not having to be the guy for really the first time an entire season of his whole career, huge. High-quality guy, great locker room guy, wonderful guy in the community, wonderful representative of your organization, Andrew McCutchen. You go out and you get a young, really one of the better talents at his position in a Gene Segura, and it goes under the radar in a lot of ways when you go out and get him. To me, he was the key. He was what the Santana deal I think they wanted to be last year. It's, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to bring in this still young but veteran player, all-star caliber player that can kind of start to shift the balance of this team and show, okay, we're making a turn now to start to make this team better. He plays every day. I mean, he had one significant injury in his career, but for the most part, he plays every day. He's sure-handed, great hitter, has a great eye, and I mean, you see the speed that he has. I feel like he's on base all the time. Exactly. He has no home runs and no RBIs, but his batting average is high. He's always on base in front of, and you need guys. When you have a Bryce Harper, when you have a Rhys Hoskins and a JT Realmuto, in order for these guys to succeed, you need guys to get on base in front of them.
And our entire lineup, for the most part, there's a couple guys that really don't. But, I mean, going back to last year, Gabe Kapler and Clintack, their biggest thing, and kind of going back to your Santana thing, was, Santana, while he's, people call him Slam Tana and everything, but he gets on base a lot. So that was the biggest thing with getting Santana. Also, kind of a leadership thing when we really didn't have leadership. But going back to it, they wanted guys to get on base by any means necessary. Didn't matter if it was a hit, a walk, anything. Now, you can go right up and down the lineup and it's all over the place. It's on base, on base, on base. And then if you're not on base guy, it's power. So it's on base power, on base power. You didn't have that the last 3-4 years. Now you have it everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you really needed that. And you have two remarkable guys who can get on base in Andrew McCutchen and Gene Segura in front of them, which is going to maximize then the Bryce Harpers and the Rhys Hoskins and JT Realmutos of the world. It's just so well balanced. And then you see them off the field. You see the success that they're having. And when they come and they score, they all have different fucking handshakes. How do you learn all these handshakes already? No. Like, it's kind of funny, but like that just kind of shows that there's a chemistry. And it's not just, we all have one big handshake. They all have their own like individual handshakes, which shows that they're building their own individual connections and chemistry with each other. And they're you could see how like happy these guys are. They enjoy what's been built here. And obviously with success is going to bring happiness as well. I mean, it's really impressive to see in a very small frame of time the chemistry that's been built already, because it can take time to do that.
Two things. Number one, it looks like Eflin's done for the night, so I'll give him an applause. He did a very well. Nice night. Two, I'll ask you guys.
Still drives me crazy these guys can't go 6 innings, but he still pitched very well.
I hate it.
I grew up watching, and I don't want to sound old.
No, but I'm right there with you. Because it wasn't that long ago, to be honest.
I grew up watching guys pitch 7 innings almost every freaking night. Now it was 6 innings. Now we can't get guys through 5th innings, unless it's your top 1 or 2 guys in the rotation. And even now your second guy in the rotation isn't guaranteed to do that.
And people at home, we're not talking about like, if they have a couple runs on the board, you can't get past 6 innings. No, Eflin gave up 0 runs, and he's getting taken out in the 6th. Now I know load management, everything, protect the arm. I get why they do it, but to Chrome's point, like I said, it seems like 2-3 years ago, guys, I mean, we obviously going back to 2011, I mean, Halladay was known for it. A bunch of these guys, in my opinion, there was nothing more exciting than the complete game.
You talked about 2011, and I know the game is a sore subject, but look
I get it.
Two freaking guys, Chris Carpenter and Roy Halladay, pitched that game, complete freaking games.
Yeah.
Like,
there's
those
nothing
guys
more
were
exciting
bulldogs.
than that.
The John Lackeys of the world, who, even if they gave up a couple runs, were bulldogs. They get out there, and they would keep pumping and pounding the strike zone and get through 6-7 innings a night.
That's a shame because
I miss it.
There's a few pitchers that they'll, the clubs will still let go. They'll let them go as long as they need to, or if they're really hot. And I'm not saying, I don't know if Nola would be that guy. I know Arrieta they would let go if he was having a really good night, but for the most part, and Chucks, it's a shame because like that time of the complete game, unless there's a rare situation, it's going away, and it's really sad. It's really, really sad because that's, like I said, it was one of my, and I'm sure Chrome will test this, it was one of the best parts of baseball, especially in the playoffs. Like a complete game in the playoffs, man. It's bringing me back, man. So the last question I was going to ask you guys, as far as expectations, after seeing a small sample size of the team, not saying that this, the 3.5 games have kind of changed your opinion of it, but as far as your like early predictions, as far as what you can see the result of this Phillies season being, what would, just barely playoffs, win a round, go deep? Some people are saying World Series.
No, I'm sticking with it. I think the Phillies they'll make it to the League Championship Series. I think they'll win the division. I still have them at plus 90 games. I said 91. I might adjust that to like 95. I don't know that they're going to get to 100 games. That's really hard to get to 100 games.
Yeah.
Particularly the first year with the way this is built.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see them winning anywhere between 91 to 94, 95 games.
Yeah.
Win the division. I don't think, and I got pounded for this the other day, but I stick with it. I still think there's a lot of question marks in the back end of the rotation. And although in a playoff series that's not as much of a factor, I don't worry about the rotation in the playoffs. I worry about how much you wear down and beat down on your bullpen to get through a season, which is why I talk about I miss when guys went 6-7 innings.
Because then your bullpen wouldn't.
Your bullpen isn't. You're not putting as much wear and tear and strain on your bullpen through the season. So that concerns me because although I like their bullpen a lot, I think there's still some question marks.
Absolutely.
So they still haven't solidified a closer. Now, if they go get a Kimbrel,
that was going to be my questions. Like, do the Phillies
so
have
they're
a closer?
They're doing closer by committee, which would be with David Robertson
and Sir Anthony.
Sir Anthony Dominguez, which is good and fine, but no team ever wins. There's never been a team that's won with a closer by committee.
If you have two closers, you don't have any. Kind of like the goalie thing.
It's right. It's never happened. So that really concerns me for them. Now, again, if they go get a Kimbrel, then that might change it for me and push them over the top. Mm-hmm. I think you can define some roles. Because take it from me, and I know I bring up the Cardinals a lot, but it's because I've seen how mismanaged the bullpen can be for the last fucking 6 years. Mm-hmm. I've seen similar situations. I've seen bullpen by committee. I've seen guys who can only pitch 4 and 5 innings. That's why I think Vinny Velasquez being in this rotation is a joke. But I've seen guys that can only pitch 4 or 5 innings at a time. And I've seen the wear and tear. I've seen so many young guys who have all the potential in the world, but because a manager doesn't know how to manage a rotation or a bullpen, ends up destroying their arms and their careers are never the same. There was a guy that came to Philadelphia very briefly by the name of Kevin Segras, who the Cardinals traded to Philadelphia. Well, he was really good for the Cardinals until Mike Matheny absolutely ruined his career with the way that he managed them. And he was mediocre at best in Philadelphia. I don't even know if he's still in the league. But I've seen it a lot, and it concerns me. And particularly because when there is anywhere that there is uncertainty, game over-manages things. Mm-hmm. So I'm concerned with that. So as it stands now, until they figure out the back end of the bullpen and the back end of the rotation, I got him getting to the NLCS and losing there to I think I had Colorado. No, I had the Mets. I had the Mets going.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
think the Mets have a little more certainty in their pitching.
My
bullpen's a little sketchy, but
my original, and I'll stand by it. My original prediction was 94 wins. NLCS loss. And like you, I think there's a lot of, question marks. And I'm judging it as is right now. Like we talked about, if they went out and got a Kimbrel, or for example, they went out and got a Madison Bumgarner or someone else, or Dallas Keuchel, for example, or whatever pitcher that, fill in the blank, for example, that could improve this roster, then yeah, things can change a little bit. But I think for a team that, obviously missed the playoffs last year, went through a historic collapse at the end of August into, obviously September, while all of us are thinking, because we know how good this team can be, World Series, or at least World Series, we're getting there. NLCS, and I hate saying like, it's a great step, because we heard that for years with the Sixers and the Eagles and everything, and when you're a team's this good, you really don't want to be patient, but it's a really freaking great building block, man.
Yeah, and listen,
for this young of a team,
when they get there, they're going to be there. And if they can get to an NLCS, they're there. Then it's just building on it next year. It's like us, You have to get over certain humps, right? What's going to be successful for the Sixers this year? At least get past that second round.
Yep.
I think they need to do that. But take it from me, from someone who is a fan of a team that every year, other than the last 2 or 3, is always there. Every year you want to say we're a World Series team, but you're not going to be a World Series team every year. And it's hard to expect it to be the first year where you build a team like this. This is something special. This isn't something you see every day. I think fans need to be patient. And listen, I love the enthusiasm of Philadelphia sports fans, but it also drives me nuts that as soon as you go from shitty to good, we're winning a championship. It's just not realistic all the time.
You know what I want? This is my dream, because since, in the 4+ years I've been here, I never got a chance to experience this. And Chucks, you can attest to this as well, because I want, when September comes, I want on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or wherever we're on the air during the week, I want the scenario of us talking Eagles, previewing the game ahead while looking at that TV screen and reacting to Game 3, Game 4, maybe clinching the playoffs. Yeah. Meaningful baseball to where it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours, however how the hell we're going, on a Tuesday, of complete madness of us going back and forth about, what's Carson Wentz going to do this week, and going absolutely ballistic about a Maikel Franco or Bryce Harper home run or whatever. That is what I want, because I never got a chance to do that, because the Phillies have sucked ever since I've been here.
Here's the thing and I'm going to answer a question here by TTP.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that Phillies fans have to be excited about. If you don't get it done this year, it's not like football where it's that much tougher. Like, really, if you build a team the way that the Phillies have, you can have a run.
Long shelf life.
It's not like the last time they did it where they had their core that were kind of young, but everybody else was older and they had to put all these old pieces. They're in a good position now. They're going to be there. So if you don't win it this year, you can, rest assured they're going to be right back there next year. So that's exciting. And like Ryan said, the consistency of playoffs is going to be really exciting for Philadelphia sports fans. The question from TTP was,
what's up, TTP?
I thought you still had to throw the pitches to intentionally walk someone. Doesn't the catcher stand up and hold his chest, or did they do away with that? They did away with that last year.
It's just a signal to the umpire now.
Oh, really? They changed that.
Which I don't like.
You don't have to throw the full pitches.
I don't like it either, because, again, one of the things that we talked with Chuck's about,
Oh, my gosh, damn.
He's a guy who loves things that have a lot of strategy.
Wait, hold on. Was that a base hit? That's
fair? Ball. It's a fair ball.
Woo! How many runs? 3.
I think that was 3 runs. Yeah,
3 runs
cleared
in.
The bases. 5-0 Phils.
And then Harper's up.
Who is
isn't
that?
he?
Yeah.
Is Harper up?
Yep. Segura hit that. Yep. About time he got in the RBI fucking category. I got him in a bunch of my fantasy leagues, man. I'm all in. I kept him in one of my. I do a league where there's a keeper.
Who's the leadoff? McCutchen?
McCutchen's your leadoff guy.
The 5-man wave
Which, by the way,
of hell, Chucks.
Even though it's not my team, clearly we really didn't have a need for him. One of my favorite baseball players of my entire life.
That's fair.
When I talk overall, the way he plays, the way he played in his prime, and his character is Andrew McCutchen. So I'm actually really excited that when I go to games, I can watch McCutchen play regularly.
What's the first thing you think of? I want to see if you're on the same wavelength. What's the first thing you think of when you think McCutchen?
MVP.
Other than off the field, kind of. Or in the dugout.
First guy up to congratulate somebody.
leadership.
Oh yeah, well that's right.
Something, and that fits the criteria for both MVP
sure.
and the second thing you said, and that's number one especially when
Single.
There's Bryce.
No, double. Boom, RBI.
Yeah, Gene's getting there. Gene's getting there.
Look at that.
See, he does the wave thing.
Yeah, bunch of schmucks. Who
Show
don't
the
know
guy
what
with the
they're talking
T-shirt that says "I do not like Bryce Harper."
The pen-written T-shirt.
Look, see all those Phillies fans? Either that or
Yo.
the Nationals fans. Like, oh, we like you again. We're gonna be Phillies fans. We're gonna be Phillies
6
fans.
runs. God.
Chucks, say it,
damn.
Chucks.
What?
The 5-man wave of hell.
I don't even think I can memorize
Learn
it.
it, know it, love it.
That.
I'm gonna get that on a T-shirt.
But yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys ever to play in my lifetime, and I'm not even exaggerating.
speed.
So and that's a guy who played on one of my division rivals.
Yeah, so it's saying a lot.
So I'm really happy that as a baseball fan, I love going to games. I could watch anybody play.
That's Reese, right?
Go on, I'm telling you.
Oh
You know I'm not looking at anything. All my screens are
I'm
black
not.
right now.
I'm not looking at anything either.
I'd be okay with it if he hit one out.
Straight.
See, he'll be patient with it. That's why I love Reese. Again, not to take shots at Herrera, but Reese and Herrera are really opposite at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Herrera is really aggressive. Hoskins, he'll wait forever.
This is all with 2 outs, by the way.
I know.
Well, the thing with Reese is
Is it still Scherzer or they went to the bullpen?
no, they're in the bullpen.
By the way, their bullpen freaking
It stinks. I know.
Stinks.
Thing
The
with
this one guy had like 3 consecutive pitches in the dirt.
The thing
I
with
was like,
the thing with Reese too is the protection around him now is insane. He's gonna see pitches.
That's
to
why I
hit.
said he's gonna have close to 50.
2.
I don't maybe. I don't know. I think he's still gonna be a 35 to 40 guy. I think
I'll
Bryce.
take it.
I think Bryce might hit 50.
Well, the only reason why I say that
I think Bryce could literally hit 50, 55 in in our ballpark,
don't tease me.
particularly.
Don't tease me. Oh, I love this team, man. I'm so happy they're back. I'm so happy. You don't understand. I mean, there's like we were talking about it on Wednesday. Like this team, I've been forced to rip on this organization ever since I got here because they weren't doing anything correct.
Listen, they deserved it.
So like over the years, a lot of people said like, "Oh, you're a Phillies hater," and I'm not. Like this organization has always had a soft spot in my heart, not because it's a Phillies team, but they were the first team to give me a championship when I was alive. You know, like 08 was the first time I saw a Philly team win a title.
Boom! Oh no.
Damn. It's all right, Reese. Everybody else is doing it. It's fine.
Good stuff. 5-0 Phillies. Guys, no huddle.
6.
Let's get in 6-0 Phillies.
Good
Sorry,
baseball
forgot about
talk,
that.
everybody.
That was.
Chuck's, good to have you a part of the club.
I hope you learned
Little
something.
by little.
on that.
I'm gonna have to learn every single day.
Homework for next week. Recite. I want you to go to the chalkboard and write down 5-man wave of hell.
When Chuck's dropped in like the football comparison, I want to be like dynamite dropping, Monty, like Major League.
Yes.
Those broadcasting classes are really starting to pay off.
You've seen that movie, right, Chucks?
I love that.
Okay.
movie.
Just,
Yeah, I
just
love
making
that
sure we're
movie.
covering all grounds.
First, I felt the first one's better than the second one.
Oh, it is. It's
Yeah.
the first one's it's iconic.
Yeah.
Second one's solid.
It's good. I'm one of the few that I actually think it's not good, but it makes me laugh. The Buzz one, the third one.
I see. I've never seen that one.
Oh, I don't. It's with Scott Bakka. I think it's funny.
Well,
it's not good by any. It's not like the other movies. We'll say that.
Gotcha. So it's like the Bad News Bears when they go to Japan, or it's not the
It's
same.
it's kind of something like that. Yeah.
Well, I love Major League 2 because it has one of the best quotable lines in the history of sports
which
movies.
one's that?
Roger Dorn, as of this morning,
Oh yeah.
I've activated myself. How many times have I quoted that on the?
Oh, it's so
I
good.
love that line. Friggin' Roger Dorn.
I like, yo, no marbles, and he's like, no marbles, no huevos, and you go,
I do love that.
I said, you boo, I treat you well, I feed you, I do it, and you leave me. I said, fuck you, Joe Boo. I do it myself.
When he's
That's the
talking,
first movie.
when he's talking to the female owner, Japanese, and she thinks he's giving talk. You are equivalent to rat excrement.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Oh, thank you. And he's like looking at her, just smiling, like you have no idea what the f I'm saying.
I love when the manager's jumping on it. I love this shit. I might move to England. the little earpiece in. By the way, if you guys have never seen Major League 1 and Major League 2,
I'm
I
sorry.
really hope people
Then I'm
have.
sorry for
Even
you.
I
they
have.
are iconic.
What's
movies.
the name? What's the name of the catcher? I love. He's one of my favorite characters. The one with the bad knees.
Oh
He
crap.
stumbles.
Oh
stumbles.
my gosh.
It starts with a T. I can't think of their names off the top of my head now.
Google. I'll go to the Google.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Shame on me.
We're dropping the ball. Anyway, Chuck's.
Anyway, okay, yeah, no huddle.
No
We're trying to get no
Huddle.
I have two things.
I do as well. Go ahead.
First one. So the
First
AAF
one.
on what was it? What was the term? Hold. They're on immediate
Suspension of
suspension
league play.
of league play, and then
Sinking ship.
going to be folded. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all would agree it's
XFL.
not surprising.
XFL.
We all would agree it's not surprising, right? I mean, like it's tough, like, but I was definitely I was hopeful that there could be something. 2 weeks in a row, you're gonna cry during my no huddle.
Listen, it's
keep-
emotional.
It's emotional.
You guys
But I think
you
it's
keep doing this to me.
it's unfortunate because it would be nice. It would be nice
Having a
to
panic attack. Having
for
a panic
like
attack.
an NFL. Oh my
The
god!
room is closing in. The room is closing in.
What's going on? What's going on?
My throat's
What's
closed.
going on?
My throat. My throat is closed. You know why I'm happy? Listen, you know what I'll remember the AAF. I almost said the XFL. The AAF for
Well, XFL is still coming.
bringing us one of our most unexpected
You're
and fun
talking-
segments
You're
in
talking about
in the history of Birds of a Feather. When I forget what, I think I
What
brought up
triggered
Trent
it?
Richardson.
Yes.
And
yes.
we went on like a 45-minute AAF conversation that was completely
Unforeseen.
At least a half an hour, completely unforeseen to come. I will remember its legacy for that. But continue. I
Yes.
didn't mean to cut you.
No, I was just saying, like, it's unfortunate because I was kind of hopeful that AF could be like the developmental league for the NFL, which is something that a lot of people like me, I think the NFL still needs. It's just unfortunate because the NFLPA it's still not backing it, and like it just sucks. And I just saw on Twitter one of the media guys for I think it's the Birmingham Iron was tweeted how today he lost his job today, and it was really emotional. And it just kind of sucks because you have these guys who finally get a chance to do something for a guy like him finally gets to cover a football team. He made relationships with the players and everything, and all of a sudden it's gone. So it does suck, but maybe XFL can put up something better. But I think there were some things, I don't know.
I wouldn't
there were
hold my
some
breath
things
for
I
that.
know. There were some things that the AAF, a lot of their the rules that they had in place there were fresh ideas, and they were pretty interesting, and I would have liked to see them go at least a full 2 years.
What did Ryan say? Everything
is
that
what it
Johnny
is.
Manziel touches turns
Turns
to
to-
shit.
Just the crap.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Johnny Manziel effect.
Oh.
So, Chuck, I'll bring this up as well because I read this to Chrome. I believe you were upstairs when I read this to him. So, the Alliance, I can't even. Their biggest issue, AAF, it's not catchy. That's why I call it the Alliance League. It's a tongue twister, AAF. The teams are reportedly making their players pay for their own flights home. So now, not only are the players going to be losing money because they're not going to have a job anymore, but they have to now put out money to fly themselves home wherever, indeed they live.
No, and you talk about too, if there's a guy that's hurt who had a whatchamacallit, a health team that was taking care of him now.
Mhm.
Well, now they're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Sucks. It's a shame in some aspects. Those aspects you guys put. I might shed an actual tear for it, but I'm not surprised. I think
it's not surprising.
I
It's
think
not
they
surprising.
launched it way in advance when they should have made sure they were going to have consistent financial backing.
They should have merged. Maybe they tried, and behind the scenes, maybe they tried to meet with McMahon, but we kind of talked about it before, maybe in a couple years, if they're both still around, maybe they'll merge.
To the same league.
But I'll tell you what, XFL was very happy.
Well, they're going to
because their
merge
players-
because they're going to steal the players.
Oh, yeah,
they're going to merge.
And Chucks, by the way, don't be too sad about all the different features that the AAF had, because we're just going to see it again this year in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because the NFL, like they did to the XFL,
they took all their camera
they
work
took the
and
best
everything.
features.
Oh, yeah.
We're just going to see it again.
I mean, we'll
so it'll
see.
be fine.
Some of those rules that I thought were interesting, like the I thought the
Damn it.
What was it? No, Homer.
Here come the
There were some
tears.
rules I can't think of it.
Well, the
there
lack
were
of
some
kickoff.
rules. The lack of the kickoff I thought was interesting. I think that is one of the rules that's eventually coming.
Yeah.
It's just the kickoff is, and I used to be opposed to it. I'm like, you have to have a kickoff. But then when I saw like the numbers in terms of number of concussions and injuries from it, and how insignificant the kickoff really is, like nothing really happens usually. I'm like, okay, yeah, now I can understand. You should just get rid of the kickoff.
Is it true,
So-
by the way? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there were 0 or maybe 1. I don't think were there any kickoff returns this year.
I think
this
there
past
was
year?
like maybe
One?
one.
Which is crazy.
So it's. I mean, you gotta factor in the new kickoff. Now that they're kicking off from the 35, a lot of them are touchbacks. So
Yeah.
not a lot of. So that decreases the number of returns.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you're not gonna have a lot, but the kickoff return in general is not that. It doesn't produce on a percentage basis. It doesn't produce that many like big plays anyway.
Now, what does
No.
that do for the onside kick, though?
That
was
onside
the other
kicks play,
rule.
that was another rule that I thought it was very interesting because
What was their rule with
you
that?
don't for the
Fourth and
NFL
15, I think.
for the NFL 4th and 12 with the
and 12.
NFL onside kick percentages have dropped
Well, it's because
significantly
you can't get a running start.
because you can't get a running start anymore, and that hurt. They got to do something to kind of offset that now. I don't see them doing the AAFs thing where where the offense gets the one down. It's a 4th and 12. They convert it's theirs from wherever the ball is spotted from. But then if they don't, obviously it goes to the other team. It's a 4th and 12. I think that was very interesting, but I don't see the NFL doing something. But they have to do something to offset the decrease in onside kicks. Like I think that wasn't foreseen, but it has to happen. So I think a good few things that were interesting. The more efficient replay thing. You remember how like it was all replay challenges. The refs didn't go to like a booth on the sideline. They had a headset.
Oh yeah.
That where everything was just calling into the headset, and then right off there, like
I'm going to be honest with you guys. A couple weeks ago, I was hungover, and there was a game between Atlanta and Orlando.
Uh-huh.
I watched one drive, and I turned it off and said, I ain't
you
never
told me
watching
that,
this
yeah.
again.
I mean, the
I thought
quality
it
of football is bad. Quality of football is
pretty
bad.
terrible.
Yeah, but like in terms of the rules and the interesting twists on the rules and stuff that they had, there were a few things where I'm like, oh, that's smart. That's very interesting.
That's why, to me, I mean, listen, unless there's
Overtime too.
Yes.
Overtime. I like their overtime.
unless there's some crazy different version of football that comes out in the next handful of years. To me, the reason why there's no model like the NFL, listen, the NFL is a corporation. It's not perfect. We all know that. There's a lot of things we're like, what the hell are you doing? What is this? What is this? But the reason why nothing can compete with it, it's because we go back to the original XFL. We go back to the Alliance League. We go to probably what's going to be the same thing for the next XFL. The level of competition, the level of football, it's not anywhere close. It's not. The football quality is so bad to just mediocre because it's in a way it's common sense because, okay, well, if these guys aren't good enough to be in the NFL or at least have an NFL contract to be a backup or a third string, well, then of course it's not going to be that great.
Well, this literally ties back into the conversation I had about the Phillies and Chuck's getting into it, right? Because how hard is it for a sport that we like to sit and watch poor quality?
Yeah. Especially lengthy.
So I can't imagine if I'm right. So if I'm someone who's trying to learn a sport to give it a chance and I sit and watch garbage, I'll never watch that sport again.
Especially with how it being as though it's 2019, there's so much different types of content everywhere.
Right. Now here's you guys are 100% right, but here's also the other end of the spectrum is you have the talent level from the NFL obviously is a significant drop down. We can all see that. But let me compare it to this. So is the talent level in the college game. College football is is the talent level is significant drop off, but you still have entertaining games. Now, why is that? One, you have obviously the loyal fan bases are always going to support and whatnot, so you're always going to have that the backing of colleges and whatnot. That goes without saying, but also we're in college. They also have that system in place. They have their program where you have all these, you have the 90 plus players on a football team. You have kids, so they have more of a leeway in terms of the drop off from talent, where they can still put good product. It's a kind of like a double-edged sword with not just the AAF but any other league professional league that comes in. Is the talent level is going to be a drop off, but in part of the way you still put an entertaining product on the field is by having these players and the teams and the coaches have the time and the time to be able to grow together, to be able to put a better product. Like, think about it this way: you're putting all these random players who have no prior experience playing with each other, the coaching staff and whatnot, they have no prior experience playing with each other, and they're learning new systems, and they're all being brought into play this one season. There is no growth. There's no time for them to grow with each other, to learn the system, to build chemistry, and then to add, they're just not as good, so the product is going to be bad. But then at the same time, you don't have the luxury of having that time to build that, because you need to have a good product in order to bring in money. So it's like it is a double-edged sword, where it's like where can you give them that time to grow that? You get what I'm saying?
Here's the difference, and I'll tie it in with this, and I'll ask you guys a question. And like I said, it ties into what we're talking about. What's the biggest three reasons why March Madness is so big as far as a viewership reason? There's three big reasons.
Gambling?
Betting, number one. What are the other two?
Quality of play.
Not necessarily quality of play. It's as
competition?
Loyalty. With
I'll be honest, I think it's gambling. I always just associate it with gambling.
Betting's one.
Well, you're right. Loyalty to a team or a school that you went to, right.
And what's the biggest difference? And
you're always a piece of that, especially if you went to a school.
Yes, and this is the biggest difference between a minor league system like the Alliance League, or not minor league system, but
and college.
Yes, and college, for example. And this goes for the NFL, this goes for college football, and very much so college basketball. So, number one, it's betting. Number two, it's loyalty with your crazy fans that are not only currently in college but alma maters. Three, it's a preview for the stars and the next wave to come in the professional sports for the NFL. That's why, you look at Alabama and Clemson, you look at, for example, the quarterback for Clemson. People were talking about him, about what he's going to be in the NFL, and he's not due for another 2 years, 2.5 years. Yeah. But it's a preview of what's to come. That's why viewership will always be there, because it gets the people who predict these things talking, especially this coming year. That's why Zion's such a big star.
I think too, even if you want to add a fourth thing, it has one or two little twists or intricacies, like the line is moved up for 3-point line and they do halves instead of quarters.
Yeah.
But it's not a far deterrent from the actual
Correct.
game as well.
Yep.
So it's not like it's, you have to learn these different rules and different ways to do things. It stays pretty true to the original form, or the known form for it.
So that's what keeps people watching college sports, compared to an AAF, because college sports, they haven't gotten the opportunity to be the next wave. The Alliance League, most of them, 99% of them, have gone there, couldn't do it, proved that, and now they're there.
I'm going to cap it with this. Nicky Stees, he says, the XFL did survive a whole season and got good ratings for the first week before it folded with a bunch of laughing faces. And he says, the rules of the AAF was fresh, but I think when people saw the rosters, they lost interest seeing it as an NFL reject league.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into my no huddle is pretty quick, the first one anyway, because I forgot to mention on the round table, and I specifically waited to mention this fact. You guys have heard it from me on the MLB round table. Yeah. Major League Baseball this year, now this could change depending on signings, is the first of the 4 U.S. major sports to not have a player that has played in the 1990s.
It's crazy.
Every player is 2000 or later. I've heard names like Yadier Molina. He's been in the league for 100 years. Now he started in 2004. Albert Pujols started in 2001. Miggy Cabrera, I believe, was 2000 or 2001, or maybe even a year later than that. But you have a bunch of those names. Anyway, those guys. It's the first, and it's crazy. The NBA, you got Dirk Nowitzki and Vince Carter were 90s guys. NHL, those guys played till they're friggin' 50. And obviously you have kickers in the NFL.
Yummer.
Pretty crazy stat to think about. And, for me, when I started watching baseball, there were guys still from the 70s. 1978, Ozzie Smith played. There was guys who played in the 70s when I started watching baseball in give or take 1988, 88 or 89. So now to think that there's not a single player that has played in the 1990s is insane. Last year you had Bartolo Colon, who is still technically not retired. So he is a name that's been thrown out there that could eventually sign. And then you had Adrian Beltre, who retired. People think Ichiro Suzuki, but he played in Japan professionally, never played professionally in the United States until 2001. So, anyway, a crazy stat makes me feel fucking old, and I wanted to throw that out there.
This is not necessarily my no huddle, but it's just coming across my phone, and I'll plug it for Thursday. So, any wrestling fans, we're having a big show. Obviously, WrestleMania is this Sunday night, so we're doing a huge roundtable show starting special time at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
on
we're
Thursday.
2.5 hours, probably commercial free.
But the reason why I bring up that cheap plug, it's because Rey Mysterio has apparently been injured.
Yeah, he's hurt. Yeah, I saw
and
that.
his WrestleMania match
Ray?
is in question. The Drifter.
That's like Chuck's favorite guy.
The Drifter.
No, Ray.
Yep.
Ray.
So that could definitely have implications on it. We'll definitely talk about
Booyaka.
that.
Yeah.
And so that's my no huddle. What do you got for us, Ryan? You got anything?
Jessica Mendoza.
Jessica Mendoza. What about her?
So she, if you don't know, she is one of the commentators on Sunday Night Baseball.
Oh, people bitching about her?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
So it has nothing to do with her baseball now. I'm not even going to that. But it has to do with a certain segment involving cheesesteaks.
I didn't see the segment. Is that why you asked me if I watched it?
Yes.
I missed that segment.
I don't blame you, and I don't advise you going back to watch it. So, and it doesn't – I'm using her as the example, but it goes for majority of broadcasters.
I think that's all part of it because
she
she said something about A-Rod was eating while he was broadcasting.
God,
it's part of it.
So the reason why I bring this up, it's because it's always been – it's not a pet peeve. It's more than pet peeves. It flat out pisses me off that all of these national broadcasters, when they come to Philadelphia or they talk about Philadelphia, they can't just talk about sports. They have to go with these lazy go-to storylines about the Liberty Bell, the cheesesteaks, and the Santa Claus from 75 years ago. So they bring in 2 cheesesteaks into the booth. And A-Rod's a part of this, and the other guy's a part of this, but it's mainly Jessica Mendoza because of the comment she made. So they have a pizza steak, and they have a Whiz Wit, which, if anybody who's listening who's not local to Philadelphia, it's a cheesesteak with cheese whiz and fried onions. So she comments, and she says, first words, "Oh, this cheesesteak looks like it has some kind of cheesy onion dip." I lost my effing mind. I probably said, "It's Whiz Wit! It's Whiz Wit!" about 100 times.
That's
then
amazing.
She goes over to the pizza steak, and she says, "Oh, this appears like it has some sort of red sauce." No, it's a pizza steak. So my annoyance and my message to any broadcasters who's going to be on these major networks, if you're going to try and be like us, if you're going to try and relate to us, do your effing homework, because it's so easy to make a storyline like this.
See, I didn't hear the first part of it. I might actually been right around when I turned it on. What I didn't like, though, if he's eating his friggin' cheesesteak on the air, don't sit there and talk about how he's talking with his mouth full. Like, that, to me, is just, it's unprofessional to do that.
Yes.
He maybe shouldn't be eating, but since it was part of his segment, it's understandable. But, like, he's not talking with food in his mouth. Don't make it a point to point out that he's, like, eating while he's on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a small, minute thing compared to what you're talking about, but, like, I just think it was in poor taste.
I want a cheesesteak now.
I will, though, just to follow up with that, the idiots who said she has no business having a job. And we saw this in the Real Talk group, which if you're not a part of, join in. Why is there a woman doing Sunday Night Baseball? Because she knows the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in reality, she's a pretty smart lady. And it's 2019. There's no reason she can't.
Yeah.
Just adding that in there because there was a lot of knuckleheads making comments with that.
I personally, going back to the cheesesteak thing, I just feel like if you're not from Philadelphia, you just don't get it. That's just my thing.
Oh, I think there's people that
no.
get it. I just think there's people that don't care to get it. That sounds like that's
Maybe,
someone.
yeah. I think
That's not like a hard thing to
even-
research.
No.
no, it's not.
I mean, anybody can get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone can get it, but it's so frustrating when people outside Philadelphia they don't get it.
You got anything else for the
Yeah.
cause, Chucks? Or we?
I
out?
just want to add real quick, guys. Make sure you get your Avengers Endgame tickets because they are going fast. This is movie that we've been waiting 11 years for. It is the end of it all for the first wave of Avengers, especially those 3 guys we talked about, right, Ryan? Who are they?
Stop talking shit.
You
No.
mean Doctor Strange?
Talking about Cap, talking about Iron Man, talking about Thor. This is like the last we're going to see them. So get those tickets. I got mine for Friday night and Sunday morning. I am ready, raring to go. I'm also not ready because emotionally I'm going to be a freaking wreck watching this movie. I
Can't
know
be any
that.
worse than Game of Trash. So
God, here we go again. Just go. I'm done. But yeah, Endgame tickets, go get them.
that's it, man. That's all. I got nothing. Nothing
Same.
that's that important. Check out the roundtable. Check out the rest of A2D's content, guys. Tomorrow we got the fix. We got AM and the PM. Thursday we have our special A2D roundtable WrestleMania in the lazy booking spot starting at 7, which will take you to 9:30, leading you up to Hockey Happy Hour at 10. Friday nights, Philly Sports Guy. Saturdays we got the Hooligans and the weekly roundup. Sunday, Agree to Disagree, the flagship. Monday we have In This Very Ring with Jackson Rich drops, as well as the Sports Hounds. And we'll be back with you guys next week. Actually, I may not be back because I don't know if I'll be back from WrestleMania yet. So, I'm if I do, it might be very late. So Chucks will be back for sure.
I will find someone.
I may be back.
I will find someone to.
But until then, guys, thank you to our sponsors, Gibson Mayer, Specialized Physical Therapy, Scanzano Sports, as always. Thank you to the fam. You guys drive this shit, and we love it. That's why we can have the luxury of going 26 extra minutes on a Tuesday night or whatever. I don't even know what night it is. I'm a mess. As always, I love to point out how terrible at my job I am. But anyway, love you guys, and we appreciate it. As always, guys, until next week, have a great week, and we will talk to you later.
Be bold.